Tonight, we leave behind the order of the waking world, beyond the walls of cities, beyond the light of sacred temples. Where music grows wild and reason begins to fade, we enter a world of shadows and wine, a world where laughter echoes through dark forests, where masked dancers move beneath torchlight, and where mortals lose themselves in ecstasy and madness. It is here, in the silence after midnight, that a god wanders unseen. Tonight, this is the story of Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, madness, and rebirth. If this kind of storytelling brings you inner peace, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you peace. And let me know in the comments where in the world are you listening from, and what time it is for you right now. It's always strangely comforting to know who else is out there closing their eyes to the same story. So settle in, let the world grow quiet, and let's dream together for a while. Before wine touched human lips, before ecstatic songs rose from torchlit hillsides, before theatre masks wept beneath moonlight, there was a world ruled by harder gods. The earth was ancient then, not young in years, but old in suffering. Mountains still remembered the footsteps of titans. Rivers carried the memory of wars between beings, so vast their anger reshaped the sky. The wounds of creation had not yet fully closed. Beneath valleys and beneath seas, the defeated powers of older ages still dreamed in chains, and above them stood Olympus, bright, ordered, cold in its perfection. After the fall of the Titans, Zeus and his siblings had divided existence like kings dividing conquered land. Zeus took the heavens. Poseidon ruled the sea. Hades descended beneath the earth. Around them gathered a new divine order, gods of wisdom, war, craftsmanship, law, prophecy, beauty. They brought structure to chaos. They named things, measured things, defined what belonged where. Apollo illuminated reason, Athena honoured discipline, Artemis protected sacred boundaries, even Ares, brutal as battle itself, moved within the predictable rhythm of conflict. The Olympians reflected what civilization longed to become: stable, controlled, clear. Yet beneath polished temples and carefully spoken prayers, another truth stirred. Human beings were not creatures of pure order. Farmers bent over vineyards knew this. Sailors drifting beneath starless nights knew this. Women singing ancient songs beside burial fires knew this. Shepherds sleeping alone in mountain wilderness knew this. There were feelings that had no temple, grief that could not be reasoned with, desire that shattered vows, joy so overwhelming it bordered on violence, madness that arrived like weather. Civilized life demanded masks. Men became citizens. Women became wives. Priests became guardians of ritual. Kings became symbols of stability. But beneath every carefully built identity lived something older, something wild, a pulse, a hunger, a voice that whispered in dreams. The Greeks understood this contradiction deeply. They built marble monuments to order while living beside forests they feared. They praised moderation while composing songs about obsession. They honoured reason while consulting prophets whose visions emerged through frenzy. Their world stood between discipline and collapse, and nature constantly reminded them how fragile control truly was. A single storm could erase harvests, a plague could empty cities, a sudden passion could destroy dynasties. A moment of irrational rage could stain bloodlines forever. The human mind itself remained unstable territory. People could become strangers to themselves. A mother could abandon her child. A king could descend into cruelty. A celebration could become a riot. Love could transform into obsession. Ecstasy could become ruin. The Greeks did not pretend these realities were accidental. They believed every force had a divine face. Every terror had a god, every longing had sacred origins, and yet one force remained unnamed. There was no god yet for intoxication, no divine patron of altered states, no sacred figure who governed the terrifying beauty of surrender. Wine existed in primitive forms, but it had not yet become ritual language. Music existed, but not yet in its most dangerous form. Dance existed, but not yet as spiritual dissolution. Human beings carried untamed chaos within themselves, but heaven had not yet sent a god capable of speaking its language. The absence lingered, like silence before distant drums, like stillness before vines break through stone. Even Olympus remained incomplete. For all Zeus's authority, desire still ruled him. For all Hera's dignity, jealousy still consumed her. For all Apollo's light, prophecy often carried unbearable darkness. The gods themselves were not free from contradiction, and perhaps that was why the world began preparing for someone different. Not a god of discipline, not a god of conquest, not a god of law, but a god who would dissolve boundaries altogether. A god of masks, of intoxication, of theatre, of liberation, of sacred madness. He would comfort the rejected, he would punish the arrogant, he would bless celebrations and destroy kingdoms. He would teach mortals how to lose themselves, and sometimes how to find themselves only after everything familiar had been torn away. His arrival would be beautiful, and catastrophic, like ivy climbing over a palace, like music drifting from a dark forest no one remembers entering, like sweet wine poured into a golden cup moments before poison reveals itself. Before his birth, the world inhaled. Civilization glittered under sunlight, but in distant mountains, forgotten caves, and shadowed groves untouched by law, something ancient waited. Night winds moved through trees. Animals lifted their heads toward unseen sounds. The moon watched silently, and somewhere far above mortal understanding, Zeus turned his gaze toward a mortal woman. The first thread of Dionysus had begun. Night arrived differently in Thebes. It did not descend all at once. It lingered. Gold sunlight clung to palace walls. Heat remained trapped in marble courtyards. The distant cries of merchants softened into murmurs, and the scent of olive oil, dust, and crushed flowers drifted through the evening air. As daylight surrendered itself slowly to dusk, Princess Semele often stood alone on her balcony. Below her stretched one of Greece's oldest cities, a place burdened by strange inheritances. Thebes was a kingdom where beauty and disaster seemed born together. Its bloodlines were already marked by curses. Its kings often rose through violence. Its stories rarely ended in peace. Yet Semele, daughter of King Cadmus, still carried the fragile innocence of someone who believed fate might spare her. She was young, radiant, and mortal. Ancient poets described mortal beauty as dangerous, not because beauty itself was sinful, but because beauty attracted the gaze of gods, and divine attention rarely arrived as a blessing alone. The Olympians desired freely, mortals paid the price. Zeus had ruled the heavens for ages by then. He commanded storms, he hurled thunder, kings prayed to him before war, farmers begged him for rain. Even gods feared his wrath, and yet beneath all his power lived an appetite that remained endlessly restless. He desired beauty wherever he found it. Nymphs, queens, mortal girls gathering water at rivers. His longing moved through the world like lightning searching for ground, and one evening it found Semele. Some myths say Zeus first saw her during a sacrifice, others claim he watched her dancing during a sacred celebration. Still others whisper that he had observed her for far longer than she realized. Myth rarely agrees on details, but myths often preserve emotional truth more faithfully than chronology. What matters is this: Zeus saw her, and wanted her. He descended not as thunder, not as a king of heaven, but in gentler form. Sometimes gods disguised themselves because their true forms were unbearable. Sometimes they disguised themselves because deception made desire easier. He came wrapped in mortal beauty, a stranger with impossible presence, a voice like distant storms softened by velvet darkness, eyes that seemed to contain both warmth and danger. Semele fell in love before understanding she was standing too close to catastrophe. Their meetings unfolded in secret. At night, always at night, when palace servants slept, when torches burned low, when respectable society surrendered to dreams, he entered her chambers like a secret prayer, and left before dawn. The air after his departure smelled faintly of rain. For Semele, this love must have felt transcendent. To be chosen by someone who seemed larger than ordinary life, to be adored with divine intensity, to feel herself lifted beyond the limitations of mortality. But myths often ask dangerous questions. What does it mean when someone infinitely powerful desires someone fragile? Can love survive imbalance? Can mortals truly consent to gods whose very existence overwhelms human understanding? The Greeks rarely offered comforting answers. Instead, they told these stories with unsettling honesty. Power seduces, and power often destroys what it touches. Soon Semele discovered she carried a child. Not an ordinary child. Something sacred stirred within her. Something immortal. And for a brief moment, she may have believed this meant security. Perhaps Zeus would protect her. Perhaps she would rise above ordinary women. Perhaps love had rewritten destiny. But on Olympus, another pair of eyes had begun watching. Hera, Queen of Heaven, wife of Zeus, guardian of marriage, and one of mythology's most terrifying embodiments of wounded pride. Hera understood her husband too well. She had witnessed countless betrayals, each one carved deeper humiliation into divine memory. Yet she could not punish Zeus. He was too powerful. So her rage often flowed downward, toward mortal women, toward children born from betrayal, toward the vulnerable. And when Hera learned of Semele, the stillness before tragedy began. This pattern appears throughout ancient mythology. Women often become battlegrounds for divine conflict. Their bodies carry consequences of wars they never chose. Semele, like many before her, stood at the centre of forces far beyond her control. Still she waited each night for Zeus. Still she touched her growing stomach. Still she imagined a future. Outside her palace windows, summer winds moved through dark trees. Somewhere distant, thunder rolled across sleeping mountains. And deep within her womb grew a child unlike any the world had known. A child born from desire, from secrecy, from imbalance, from heaven's hunger. He would inherit contradiction before taking his first breath. Half divine, half mortal, beloved, cursed. And while Semele dreamed of love, Hera began to dream of revenge. The candle had been lit. Soon the palace would burn. On Olympus, nothing remained hidden for long. Mortals often imagined the heavens as a place of perfect serenity, golden halls untouched by ordinary suffering. But Greek myth rarely presents the gods as peaceful beings. They were immortal, yes, but immortality did not free them from obsession. It merely allowed obsession to endure forever. And no obsession endured more fiercely than Hera's grief disguised as wrath. She sat upon her throne beside Zeus, crowned in celestial dignity. To mortals below, she was sacred law, the protector of marriage, the guardian of queens, the divine embodiment of legitimacy. Yet behind that regal stillness lived humiliation that had accumulated for centuries. Zeus's betrayals had become legendary. His desires scattered children across the mortal world like sparks thrown into dry forests. Every new lover became another insult. Every hidden child became another reminder that even the Queen of Heaven could not command loyalty. And now there was Semele. Young, mortal, pregnant, dangerously adored. Hera watched from above as Zeus descended night after night to Thebes. She saw his tenderness. That may have enraged her most. Lust she understood. But tenderness carried the threat of emotional betrayal. And so she waited. Hera was not a goddess of reckless anger. Her vengeance often moved with terrifying patience, like poison dissolving slowly into wine, like ivy tightening around stone over many seasons. She understood that direct violence would be too simple. Semele must destroy herself. That was always Hera's most elegant cruelty, to make victims participate in their own ruin. One evening, as twilight sank over Thebes, Hera descended from Olympus, wrapped in disguise. She did not arrive in divine brilliance. She came as an old woman, bent with age, soft-spoken, familiar. In some tellings, she appeared as Semele's trusted nurse, in others, as an elderly relative, someone whose voice could enter private chambers without suspicion. That detail matters. Ancient myths repeatedly warn that destruction often arrives wearing the face of trust. Semele welcomed her. The palace was quiet. Oil lamps flickered against stone walls, night insects sang beyond open windows, and the pregnant princess, glowing with secret anticipation, spoke freely of the mysterious lover who visited her in darkness. She described his beauty, his power, his impossible presence. Her voice carried the breathless certainty of someone who believes she has been chosen by destiny. The old woman listened carefully. Then she planted a single question. "How do you know he is truly Zeus?" The room changed, only slightly, but enough. Doubt entered like cold air. Semele laughed at first. She insisted she knew. She could feel his divinity. His touch was unlike any mortal man. His presence transformed the room itself. But Hera pressed gently. Men lie. Gods deceive. What if he is only pretending? What if you have surrendered yourself to a fraud? The oldest manipulations are often built on insecurity. Hera understood Semele's vulnerability perfectly. The young princess was not merely in love. She was dependent on belief. Her future rested on trust. And trust, once disturbed, begins collapsing from within. By the time Hera left, Semele's certainty had become restless fear. She lay awake that night, listening for Zeus. The wind moved through curtains. Torches hissed in distant hallways. Her hands trembled against her growing stomach. What if she had been fooled? What if the father of her child was not a god? What if her entire future had been built upon illusion? When Zeus arrived, he found not celebration, but unease. Still, he adored her enough to ask what troubled her. That question became the trap. Semele asked him to swear an oath. Like many moments in Greek mythology, catastrophe often begins with ritual promises. He swore by the river Styx, the oldest and most binding oath among gods, an oath even Zeus could not break. Then she made her request. "Show yourself as you truly are. Come to me in your full divine form, not disguised, not hidden. Reveal your true nature." Silence followed. And for the first time Zeus understood the depth of the trap. He begged her to choose something else. Jewels, kingdoms, protection, anything. But Semele's fear had already hardened into obsession. If love was real, she needed proof. And proof, in mythology, often demands more than humans can survive. The Greeks understood something timeless. Human beings often claim to want truth. But absolute truth can be unbearable. To see gods without illusion, to witness raw power without protective distance, to strip mystery of its veil. This desire appears noble, yet it often carries hidden arrogance. Mortals are fragile creatures. Certain revelations destroy the very minds that seek them. Zeus looked at the woman he loved and knew she had already stepped beyond safety. Outside, thunder gathered above Thebes. Clouds swallowed the stars. The air thickened with electricity, and Hera watched from Olympus. Silent, patient, satisfied. The trap had closed. Now all she had to do was wait for lightning. Storms often arrive with warning. Clouds gather. Birds vanish into silence. The air grows heavy. Even animals sense what is coming. But some disasters arrive while candles still burn softly, while lovers still whisper promises, while hope remains seated calmly at the table. That night, Thebes slept beneath a sky swollen with thunder. The palace stood silent beneath gathering clouds. Guards leaned against their spears. Servants dreamed behind closed doors. Oil lamps flickered weakly in long corridors of stone. And inside her private chamber, Semele waited. Fear and longing moved through her like opposing tides. She had demanded truth. Now, truth was coming. The request must have seemed simple when she first spoke it. A lover proving himself, a god removing his disguise. Yet Greek mythology repeatedly warns that mortals misunderstand scale. They ask eternity to fit inside human limits. They ask divine power to arrive gently enough for fragile flesh. The universe rarely agrees. Zeus appeared in silence. At first, he remained in the beautiful mortal form she knew. His face was filled with grief. He begged her one final time. Take back your request. Ask for anything else. Semele, trembling, but resolute, refused. She believed truth would save her, that if she could witness the full reality of divine love, her fears would vanish. Instead, she had mistaken revelation for safety. Zeus understood what must happen. Bound by his oath upon the river Styx, he could not deny her. Even kings of heaven are sometimes prisoners of their own promises. Slowly, the room began to change. The candles went out first. Then came the wind. Curtains tore free from open windows. Furniture shook. The walls groaned as though the palace itself feared what was entering. Then light arrived. Not gentle light. Not sunlight. Not fire. This was creation's violence. The unbearable brilliance of storm gods. Lightning wrapped itself around Zeus like living serpents. Thunder cracked through the chamber. His mortal disguise dissolved, and Semele saw what no human was meant to see, the raw architecture of divinity. His body blazed with celestial fire. His eyes carried the weight of storms that had shattered mountains. His voice became thunder, layered upon thunder. Around him swirled the terrifying beauty of uncontained power. This was not cruelty. This was scale. The Greeks understood that gods were not simply stronger humans. They represented forces too immense for mortal senses. To witness them directly was like staring into the sun and asking to remain unchanged. For one suspended moment, Semele looked upon heaven unveiled. And then her mortal body failed. Ancient versions differ. Some say she was instantly consumed by divine fire. Others say lightning struck her. Some claim she collapsed as her body burned from within. All versions preserve the same truth. Human flesh cannot survive proximity to infinite power. Her screams echoed through the palace, then vanished. Silence followed. Smoke curled toward the shattered ceiling. The room smelled of ash, rain, and burning cedar. Semele was gone, reduced to ruin. A young woman destroyed not because she lacked love, but because she demanded certainty from something too vast to hold. And yet the tragedy was not complete. Within the burning remains of her body, something still lived, the unborn child, half mortal, half divine, still unfinished, still vulnerable. Zeus heard the faint cry, a sound impossibly small within the aftermath of cosmic destruction. And suddenly the god of thunder became something rare in mythology, a grieving father. He moved through smoke and shattered stone, carefully. urgently. He found the infant fetus hidden within Semele's remains, not ready for birth, not ready for survival, too early torn from mortal safety. The image is haunting, life emerging from catastrophe, creation stitched to destruction. It would become the defining pattern of Dionysus forever. He would always be born from endings, joy from grief, ecstasy from pain, transformation from ruin. The palace awoke to disaster. Servants screamed. The royal family rushed toward smoke. Thunder retreated into distant mountains. Rain began to fall over Thebes. And Hera watched from Olympus, victorious, yet even she could not fully stop what had begun. Semele was dead, but the child remained, fragile as a spark, dangerous as wildfire. Zeus held what remained of his son, and made a decision that would become one of mythology's strangest acts of love. To save the unborn god, he would make his own body a refuge, and Dionysus would be born again from flesh that was never meant to carry life. Rain washed Thebes before dawn. It fell over shattered rooftops, over frightened servants whispering of divine wrath, over palace stones still warm from celestial fire. Ash ran through the streets in thin grey streams, disappearing into the earth like memory trying to bury itself. Inside the ruined chamber where Semele had died, the air still trembled with the aftermath of revelation. The walls were blackened, curtains had been reduced to smoke, fragments of gold and marble lay scattered across the floor. And in the centre of that devastation stood Zeus, King of Heaven, Lord of Thunder, holding something impossibly fragile, the unfinished child, barely formed, still wet with mortal blood, still suspended between existence and oblivion. Ancient storytellers lingered on this image because it feels almost impossible. The most powerful being in the cosmos rendered helpless before premature life. Lightning could split mountains, but lightning could not complete a birth. Zeus looked upon what remained of his union with Semele and understood a brutal truth. If left as he was, the child would die. And perhaps for the first time since the Titan Wars, the ruler of Olympus faced a problem power alone could not solve. He needed patience, he needed tenderness, he needed to become shelter. The decision that followed remains one of the strangest and most symbolic acts in all mythology. Zeus cut open his own thigh, not in violence, but in desperate creation. He placed the unborn child inside the wound, then sealed the flesh shut, and carried the infant within his own body. The image has disturbed and fascinated scholars for centuries, a male god performing an act associated with motherhood, a king becoming a womb, a father literally carrying his child into life. Myth often expresses truths through impossible images, and this image speaks of rupture. Dionysus would not emerge through ordinary patterns. Nothing about him would be conventional. His very existence dissolved boundaries, male and female, life and death, mortality and divinity, pleasure and grief. He would forever belong to thresholds, to places where categories fail. While Zeus carried the child, Olympus grew restless. The gods whispered. Some mocked him. Others feared what this unusual birth might produce. Hera's rage deepened. Semele's death had not ended the prophecy, it had transformed it. Now the child had become even stranger, harder to destroy, marked by both maternal death and paternal sacrifice. Meanwhile, the mortal world moved forward in ignorance. Harvests continued, kings fought wars, ships crossed dangerous seas, temples burned incense to gods who seemed distant and orderly. Few knew that their future was growing inside the flesh of thunder itself. And Zeus wandered. Some traditions describe him retreating into hidden places, mountain caves, remote groves, silent peaks where clouds gathered around stone. Perhaps even he needed privacy for this strange act of preservation. Imagine the loneliness of carrying life while knowing your own wife wishes it dead. Imagine hearing the heartbeat of a child hidden beneath immortal skin. Imagine knowing that child will inherit tragedy before taking its first breath. Time moved differently for gods. Days may have passed. Or months. Myth leaves such detail suspended like mist. What matters is transformation. The child developed. Bones formed. Limbs strengthened. Breath prepared itself. And within that dark sanctuary, Dionysus absorbed contradiction as nourishment. He grew surrounded by thunder. He grew listening to the heartbeat of a father who was also his refuge. He grew shaped by loss. His first mother had become ash. His second mother was power itself. This unusual gestation would echo throughout his mythology. Dionysus repeatedly protects outsiders because he was born outside normal structures. He repeatedly dissolves rigid identities because his own identity began as a paradox. He repeatedly moves between worlds because he was never fully claimed by one. The Greeks recognized that unusual births often signaled unusual destinies. Heroes emerged from curses, monsters emerged from divine mistakes, and gods born through impossible means rarely brought ordinary futures. One night, the sky above Olympus grew strangely quiet. No thunder, no storms, only silence. Then, pain. Zeus collapsed beneath the pressure of approaching birth. Lightning flashed across distant horizons. The heavens themselves seemed to inhale. The wound in his thighs split open. And from divine flesh, something new prepared to enter the world. Not fully mortal, not fully Olympian, born once from death, born again from a god, a child of wine before vineyards, a child of ecstasy before celebration, a child of madness before the first scream. And when he emerged, the world would never feel entirely stable again. There are births accompanied by lullabies. And there are births accompanied by thunder. The second birth of Dionysus belonged to neither the gentle world of mortal mothers nor the orderly rituals of royal inheritance. It arrived like a secret tearing through heaven. The wound in Zeus's thigh had grown heavy with destiny. What had once been a desperate act of preservation was now reaching its final moment. Across Olympus, strange stillness settled over the divine courts. The winds quieted, eagles abandoned their circling paths. Even the nectar halls seemed muted, as if immortality itself paused to listen. Zeus walked alone. Some myths place him on Olympus, others imagine him on a distant mountain wrapped in storm clouds. The setting changes, the symbolism remains. Creation often requires isolation, especially when what is being born has no precedent. Pain spread through his body, not the pain of battle, not the familiar violence of war against titans. This was intimate suffering, slow, unavoidable, transformative, and perhaps that is why this story endured. Ancient audiences would have recognized its strangeness immediately. The supreme masculine ruler of the cosmos forced into vulnerability, usually reserved for women. Greek mythology often reinforces hierarchy, yet here hierarchy dissolves. Power kneels before life. At last the wound opened, light burst outward, not destructive like the fire that consumed Semele. This light shimmered with something stranger. Warmth, music, fragrance, the scent of crushed grapes not yet cultivated, wildflowers blooming in impossible seasons, rain falling on heated stone, and from the torn flesh of Zeus emerged an infant. Small, crying, alive, Dionysus, twice born. The phrase would define him forever. Born first from a mortal mother destroyed by divine truth. Born again from an immortal father wounded by love. Death had already tried to claim him. He answered by returning. This pattern would shape his entire mythology. Dionysus becomes the god of those who survive collapse, of those who rebuild identity after devastation, of those who emerge transformed from experiences that should have ended them. He is not a god of untouched purity. He is a god of survival through fragmentation. The Greeks deeply understood rebirth. Their agricultural life revolved around cycles of death and renewal. Seeds vanish beneath soil before returning as life. Vines withered in winter before flowering again. Civilizations collapsed and rose. Human grief often transformed into new forms of meaning. Dionysus embodied these rhythms. But he also carried something more dangerous. Rebirth often requires destruction first, and destruction rarely feels sacred while it is happening. When Zeus held his newborn son, ancient poets describe a mixture of relief and dread. This child had survived impossible odds. Yet, survival does not erase prophecy. The gods could sense instability surrounding him. Unlike Apollo, who entered myth wrapped in radiant order, unlike Athena, born fully armed and purposeful, Dionysus arrived carrying ambiguity. He was beautiful, but unsettling. Divine, yet deeply tied to mortal suffering, male. Yet associated throughout later myths with softness, fluidity, ornament, and emotional surrender. He would bless fertility and unleash destruction. He would inspire theatre and madness. He would comfort the grieving and dismantle kings. Even as an infant, contradiction clung to him like perfume. Hera, however, remained unconvinced by miracles. When news of his survival reached her, rage returned sharper than before. Semele was dead, yet her child lived, a living reminder of Zeus's betrayal. And now the infant had become harder to kill. Protected by myth itself, Hera understood she could not openly challenge Zeus's choice. But she could wait. She had eternity. And children are vulnerable. Zeus understood this too. He knew Olympus was no place for the boy. Too many eyes watched. Too many resentments lingered. Too much danger moved behind divine smiles. The infant needed hiding. Protection. Distance from Hera's hatred. So Zeus prepared to send him away. This too would shape Dionysus forever. He would spend much of his mythology wandering. Hidden. Exiled. Moving between lands that only partially accepted him. Home would always feel temporary. As night fell across heaven, Zeus wrapped the infant in soft cloth. The child stopped crying. Tiny fingers closed around the king's hand. For a moment, thunder became still. The ruler of the cosmos looked down at the son born from ash and flesh, and perhaps he understood what the world did not. This child would become necessary. Civilization had gods for law, for wisdom, for war, for harvest. But humanity still lacked a god for surrender, for altered consciousness, for beautiful chaos, for the terrifying freedom of becoming someone else. Dionysus opened his eyes, and somewhere in distant forests, vines began quietly climbing toward the light. Some children are welcomed into the world with celebration, others arrive as secrets. Dionysus entered existence like contraband carried through divine corridors, born from death, saved through impossible sacrifice, and now, almost immediately, forced into hiding. Olympus was beautiful from a distance. Mortals imagined it as a realm of endless light, golden halls suspended above cloud and storm. Yet beauty often conceals danger. For the infant Dionysus, Olympus had become a palace of watchful eyes. Every corridor carried whispers. Every feast concealed rivalries. Every smile risked betrayal. And above all stood Hera, silent, graceful, patient. Her anger had cooled into something more frightening than rage. Determination. She had failed to destroy Semele's child before birth. She would not fail again. Ancient myths often portray Hera as cruel, yet beneath her vengeance lies something darker and more tragic. She is the goddess of sacred vows trapped in a marriage built on humiliation. Unable to punish Zeus directly, she turns her suffering toward those weaker than herself. It is not justice, it is repetition. pain searching for a place to land. Zeus understood this pattern well. He knew his son would never be safe in plain sight. So the King of Heaven began another deception. Myths differ on the exact details. Some say Zeus entrusted the infant to Hermes. Others say he personally carried the child through mortal lands under cover of night. But nearly all versions agree on one truth: Dionysus had to disappear. Hermes, the god of thresholds, travellers, and secret movement, was a fitting guardian. He moved between worlds with ease. He understood hidden roads. He understood silence. And so one night, beneath a sky untouched by moonlight, the infant was wrapped in soft cloth and carried away from Olympus. Far below, mountains slept beneath mist. Rivers glimmered like silver threads. Villages flickered with dying fires. The child who would one day inspire ecstatic festivals crossed the sleeping world in complete silence. Even as an infant, his life was movement. Escape. Transformation. Some traditions claim Zeus disguised Dionysus as a girl to confuse Hera. This detail, often overlooked, carries profound symbolic weight. From the very beginning, Dionysus moved beyond rigid identity. Masculine and feminine symbols followed him throughout antiquity: long hair, perfumed robes, soft beauty paired with terrifying force. Ancient audiences found this both fascinating and unsettling. He could not be easily categorized, and perhaps that uncertainty was his power. The child was eventually brought to Ino, Semele's sister, a mortal woman now tasked with raising her dead sister's divine son. Ino and her husband Aphamus accepted the burden. They hid the child within their household, raised him quietly, protected him as best they could. But secrecy has weight. Every knock at the door becomes threatening. Every stranger feels dangerous. Every unusual dream feels like prophecy. And Hera was not fooled for long. Gods possess patience that mortals cannot imagine. They do not tire. They do not forget. Soon, Hera discovered where the child had been hidden. Rather than strike directly, she once again chose madness. She infected the household with divine insanity. Aphamus descended into delusion. He saw enemies where none existed. He mistook his own family for monsters. Ancient accounts describe him murdering one of his children in a frenzy. Ino fled in horror, carrying another child before leaping into the sea. Their story became another casualty of Dionysus' survival. Even those who protected him were consumed by collateral tragedy. This pattern would follow Dionysus throughout myth. To welcome him often meant transformation, sometimes ecstatic, sometimes catastrophic. Zeus intervened once more. The infant was rescued before Hera's madness could reach him. Again he was moved. Again he vanished. Again he survived. Repeated survival creates unusual beings. Children raised in stability often inherit certainty. Children raised in flight learn fluidity. Dionysus was becoming a god shaped by instability before he could speak. He belonged nowhere permanent. He trusted no fixed structure. Kings. Homes. Gender roles. Civilized expectations. All would later feel temporary to him. As dawn approached, Hermes carried the infant deeper into hidden wilderness, away from palaces, away from queens, away from laws, toward valleys untouched by human ambition, toward places where streams whispered through stone, toward caves where nymphs danced unseen, toward forests where wild things moved without shame. There, hidden from Hera's gaze, for a time, the abandoned god would begin his true childhood, and nature itself would become his first teacher. Far from palaces, far from courts poisoned by jealousy, far from the rigid architecture of kings and gods, there were valleys the ancient world rarely mapped, places hidden behind curtains of mist, places where rivers moved so quietly they sounded like whispers spoken beneath sleep. places where sunlight arrived late in the morning and disappeared early behind mountain stone. It was here that Dionysus vanished from history, and perhaps for the first time since his violent conception, he was safe. Hermes carried the infant across wilderness untouched by empire, over steep ridges, through forests thick with cedar and pine, across streams cold enough to numb mortal skin. The child barely cried. Ancient poets often mention this detail when describing extraordinary births. Children marked by destiny seem to recognize the gravity surrounding them. They watch, they listen, they wait. At last Hermes reached Mount Nysa, or perhaps it was another hidden sanctuary. Mythologists still debate where Dionysus spent his childhood. Some place it in Greece, others in Libya, others in distant Asia. The uncertainty feels appropriate. Dionysus belongs to blurred borders. His origins resist confinement. Wherever the place truly was, it existed beyond ordinary civilization. A secret valley where divine nymphs lived among waterfalls, caves, flowering vines, and ancient trees. They were beings of nature, neither fully mortal nor fully Olympian. Guardians of springs, forests, mountain winds, hidden fertility. They existed where nature still spoke its oldest language, and they became his mothers. The infant was placed into their arms, a child twice born, a child hunted by a queen, a child carrying both destruction and wonder in equal measure. The nymphs accepted him without fear. Perhaps nature recognized what civilization would later resist. Wild places often understand contradiction better than structured societies. Forests do not demand neat categories. Flowers bloom beside decay. Predators sleep beneath peaceful skies. Beauty and danger share the same soil. This was Dionysus's true inheritance. He grew beneath open skies rather than palace ceilings. He learned the language of streams before formal speech. He fell asleep to insects singing in darkness. He woke to birds hidden inside morning fog. Goats wandered nearby cliffs. Leopards moved silently through distant trees. Wind carried scents of wet stone, pine resin, wild figs and distant blossoms. Everything felt alive. Ancient Greeks often viewed wilderness with both awe and fear. The city represented order, law, identity. The wilderness represented transformation. There people became vulnerable to forces larger than themselves. They could lose direction, lose certainty, lose names. Dionysus was raised inside that instability, and rather than fear it, he learned to love it. The nymphs sang to him, not formal hymns, older songs, songs with rhythms tied to rain, songs that echoed the movement of seasons. They adorned him with ivy, let him run barefoot, taught him to listen to trees bending in wind. He learned that silence was never truly silent. Nature was always speaking. By childhood, strange signs began appearing. Flowers bloomed where he stepped. Dry vines revived at his touch. Animals approached him without fear. Water shimmered differently in his reflection. Even the nymphs began noticing his unusual relationship with growth, especially vines. He seemed drawn to twisting plants that climbed stone and wrapped themselves around trees. Vines fascinated him because they mirrored his own spirit. They did not grow in straight lines. They wandered, adapted, consumed boundaries, turned ruins into gardens. A palace wall meant nothing to ivy. A social order meant nothing to roots. Nature simply expanded, and so would he. Yet even in these peaceful years, shadows remained. Sometimes storms gathered suddenly, and Dionysus would become quiet. He would stare at distant thunder with a strange expression, as if remembering something his conscious mind could not fully access. The body remembers what language cannot. Somewhere deep within him lived fire, his mother's screams, his father's storm, the violence of birth, the terror of pursuit. His joy was real, but so was the instability beneath it. This duality would define his adulthood. Ecstasy often emerged from buried pain. Celebration often stood beside grief. As he grew older, one discovery waited quietly among the hills, a fruit hanging heavy beneath warm sunlight, a vine swollen with possibility, something sweet, something dangerous, something capable of transforming human consciousness forever. And when Dionysus first touched it, the world would begin to change. By the time Dionysus reached youth, the hidden valleys no longer felt large enough. Childhood had been made of waterfalls, sleeping animals, nymph songs, and endless green silence. But adolescence carries its own restlessness. Even gods feel it. A hunger without clear direction, a sensation that something vast waits just beyond the edge of familiarity. Dionysus began wandering farther from the sacred groves where he had been raised. He climbed cliffs before sunrise. He disappeared into forests for entire days. He followed rivers simply to see where they ended. The nymphs watched him with growing concern. They understood nature, and nature was telling them he was changing. Flowers bloomed unnaturally fast where he slept. Animals gathered around him in strange stillness. Storm clouds often circled mountains when his emotions shifted. And sometimes, during moments of silence, he looked toward distant horizons with an expression that seemed older than youth, as though exile was awakening inside him, as though hidden blood was calling him toward destiny. One late afternoon, Dionysus wandered beyond familiar paths. Summer hung heavy over the valley. The air shimmered. Cicadas screamed from trees. Sunlight poured across stone cliffs in molten waves. He followed the scent of sweetness, faint at first, then impossible to ignore. It drifted through warm air like an invitation. He crossed a narrow stream, pushed through dense foliage, and entered a clearing untouched by human hands. There he saw them, wild grapevines, twisting over ancient trees. Curling around broken stone, heavy clusters of dark fruit hanging beneath broad leaves, they seemed almost luminous in the fading light. Waiting. The Greeks often treated such discoveries as divine encounters. Nature was not inert matter, it concealed intention. Messages. Tests. Gifts. Dionysus approached slowly. The vines stirred in the wind like living things recognizing their master. He reached toward a cluster of grapes. Their skins were warm from sunlight, smooth, fragile. When he pressed one between his fingers, purple juice ran across his hand. The scent deepened, sweet, earthy, fermented by heat. He tasted it, and paused. Something ancient moved through him. Not merely pleasure, recognition. As if he had found a forgotten fragment of himself hidden in the natural world, fruit transformed by time. Sweetness moving toward decay, decay producing something richer. The grape mirrored Dionysus's own existence, born from destruction, made beautiful through instability. Ancient scholars often connected wine to civilization because fermentation requires patience and knowledge, but wine also remains deeply connected to wildness. It begins as fruit, as sunlight stored in fragile skin, as something that can rot if mishandled. Transformation always contains risk. Dionysus gathered the grapes, armfuls of them. He brought them back to the valley. The nymphs laughed softly at his excitement. Together they crushed the fruit in stone basins. Purple liquid stained their hands, their feet, their clothes. The air filled with sweetness. At first it seemed like simple abundance, a pleasant harvest, yet Dionysus sensed something unfinished. He stored the juice in sealed containers, then waited. Days passed, then weeks. The liquid changed. It darkened, bubbled, released strange aromas. The nymphs warned him to discard it. They feared spoilage, corruption, something gone wrong. But Dionysus remained fascinated. He had spent his life understanding that transformation often appears ugly before it reveals meaning. Seeds disappear underground. Bodies burn. Children survive impossible births. Decay is not always an ending. Sometimes it is preparation. One evening he opened the vessel. Night had already fallen. Torches flickered. Wind moved softly through trees. The liquid shimmered dark red beneath firelight. It smelled alive. Dangerous. Seductive. The nymph stood back. Dionysus lifted the vessel. For a moment he hesitated. Even gods recognized thresholds. Then he drank. The taste was unlike anything he had known. Sweetness transformed into fire. Warmth spreading through his body. His thoughts loosening. His senses widening. Music hidden inside silence suddenly became audible. The stars seemed closer. The trees appeared to breathe. His body felt lighter, then heavier, then infinite. He laughed, then cried, then danced. The nymphs watched with awe and fear, because they understood immediately this was not ordinary nourishment. This was a doorway, and once opened, humanity would never fully close it again. The first sip was only the beginning. What Dionysus tasted that night in the hidden valley was not merely fermented fruit. It was transformation made liquid. A sacred contradiction. Born from sweetness, refined through decay, capable of dissolving the rigid walls inside the human mind. The vessel remained warm in his hands. Dark red liquid shimmered beneath torchlight like captured sunset. Around him the nymph stood in uneasy silence. Night insects sang from distant grass. The wind moved through cedar trees like whispered warnings. And Dionysus drank again, longer this time, deeper. The effect unfolded slowly. Then, all at once, the world softened at its edges. The stars overhead appeared brighter. The air itself felt musical. Every sensation expanded beyond ordinary proportion. The scent of earth became intoxicating. The sound of running water seemed layered with hidden voices. Moonlight across stone looked alive. Then came emotion, unfiltered, violent in its honesty. Joy rose first, pure and radiant. The kind of joy children briefly experience before adulthood teaches restraint. He laughed until tears blurred his vision. He ran barefoot through the valley. He spun beneath the moon until the heavens themselves seemed to dance. The nymphs watched, uncertain whether they were witnessing revelation or collapse. Then the joy changed. Memories surfaced. Not clear memories, fragments. Heat, thunder, a woman screaming, the smell of smoke, hands carrying him through darkness. He fell to his knees and wept. This was wine's deeper truth. It did not merely create happiness, it removed barriers. Whatever lived buried within a person could rise. Grief, desire, regret. Longing, rage, ecstasy. The Greeks understood this well. Wine was never viewed as simple entertainment. It was sacred because it revealed what ordinary life concealed. In moderation, it could create fellowship. In excess, it could destroy identities. It exposed the unstable architecture of the self. And Dionysus, perhaps more than any being alive, recognized its power immediately. He saw that wine mirrored existence itself. Human beings spent their lives constructing masks: citizen, mother, warrior, priest, king, wife. But beneath those carefully maintained roles lived wild emotional landscapes, rarely acknowledged. Wine gave temporary access to that hidden territory. It allowed people to mourn openly, to celebrate without restraint, to confess forbidden desires, to become someone else, or perhaps become more fully themselves. This ambiguity made wine both sacred and dangerous. Dionysus stood in the valley until dawn. At sunrise, he looked transformed, not physically, but inwardly. He had discovered purpose. For much of his youth, he had lived as a hidden child, protected, wandering, undefined. Now he understood what he had been born to bring: not war, not law, not prophecy, release. A ritual path into altered consciousness, a divine method of loosening suffering's grip. Yet even then he understood the danger. Freedom without boundaries can become annihilation. A person may drink to celebrate, or drink to forget. One path creates communion, the other may create ruin. Dionysus would forever embody both possibilities. As dawn spread across the valley, he shared the wine with the nymphs. At first they hesitated, then curiosity overcame fear. One by one they drank. Soon laughter echoed through the hills. Songs emerged. Ancient songs transformed into wilder rhythms. Some danced barefoot through grass, others embraced. Some cried for forgotten loves. One nymph sat quietly by a river and smiled at the sunrise, as though seeing light for the first time. Wine revealed each soul differently, and Dionysus watched carefully. He was learning. The valley had become his first temple. No marble columns, no priests, no laws, only moonlight, fruit, music, transformation. This would become his sacred formula. But valleys cannot contain revelations forever. Human civilization waited beyond mountains, cities full of exhausted labourers, kings trapped inside ceremony, women burdened by expectation, men imprisoned by honour. Entire societies pretending control was permanent. They did not yet know relief was coming, nor did they understand its cost. Dionysus lifted the final cup as morning light touched the hills. The wine glowed red like blood, like sunset, like divine promise. He smiled softly, then looked toward the distant world of mortals, and began preparing to share intoxication with humanity. The mountains had taught him silence. The vines had taught him transformation. Wine had taught him revelation. Now Dionysus turned his eyes toward humanity. Beyond the hidden valleys lay cities of stone and discipline, fields measured by labour, temples governed by ritual, families bound by expectation, kings imprisoned by the performance of authority. From a distance, civilization appeared orderly. But Dionysus had inherited an unusual gift. He could sense what people concealed. Behind palace walls he felt loneliness. In marketplaces he sensed exhaustion. At wedding feasts he tasted silent regret. Even during religious ceremonies he recognized prayers spoken by mouths while hearts remained elsewhere. Human beings had become experts in endurance. They survived through discipline. But survival is not always living. The ancient world was harsh. Most lives were physically demanding and brief. Farmers rose before dawn and worked until their bodies broke. Women carried enormous burdens within rigid structures. Soldiers marched toward wars chosen by kings. Slaves laboured without hope of freedom. Even the wealthy lived under constant fear of plague, famine, political betrayal, and divine punishment. Control became civilization's religion. Suppress hunger, suppress grief, suppress desire, suppress doubt, smile during ceremony, work until death. Dionysus understood something many gods ignored. Human beings cannot remain tightly sealed forever. Pressure builds, and what is repressed eventually returns in dangerous forms. So he descended from the mountains, not as a conqueror, not as a king, but as a wandering stranger carrying vines. Ancient art often portrays him as impossibly beautiful, long-haired, youthful, soft-featured, adorned with ivy and animal skins. His appearance unsettled people because it resisted easy categorization. He looked noble but wild, gentle but dangerous, feminine to some, terrifyingly masculine to others. Like his wine, he dissolved certainty. He entered villages quietly. He taught farmers how to cultivate grapes, how to prune vines, how to harvest fruit, how to store juice, how to wait for fermentation. He transformed random abundance into ritual knowledge. This mattered deeply. Wine is not accidental. It requires patience, observation, trust in invisible processes. In many ways, it resembles faith. At first, mortals distrusted him. Some mocked him. Others feared poison. Why drink something intentionally altered? Why surrender clarity? Why invite unpredictability? These questions would follow Dionysian worship for centuries. Then they tasted it, and the world shifted. A grieving widow laughed for the first time since her husband's burial. A soldier confessed fear he had hidden for years. Old friends embraced. Songs emerged. Dancers moved without shame. People who had lived like tightly wound rope suddenly loosened. For many it felt like rebirth. For others, terrifying vulnerability. Not everyone responded peacefully. Some drank too much. Arguments erupted. Old resentment surfaced. Violence occasionally followed celebration. This too became part of Dionysus' mythology. He never promised harmless liberation. To dissolve restraint is always risky. What emerges may be beautiful, or monstrous, usually both. Still, his influence spread rapidly. Villagers began planting vineyards. Travellers carried stories of a mysterious god who brought joy in liquid form. Songs were written about him. Women often embraced his rituals first. They had fewer sanctioned forms of release within Greek society. Through Dionysian celebration, they temporarily escaped domestic confinement. This deeply unsettled male authority. A woman dancing freely in the wilderness represented more than celebration. It represented the collapse of control. Theatres would later grow from these rituals. So would festivals. So would ecstatic religious traditions. But in the beginning, it was simpler. A cup passed between tired hands, a moment of relief. A brief escape from crushing structure. Dionysus travelled endlessly. Through farms, ports, villages, mountain settlements. Everywhere he went, vines followed. Stone walls grew green, forgotten land blossomed, music drifted through night air, and ordinary people began discovering that life contained experiences beyond duty. Kings noticed, priests noticed, lawmakers noticed, and they grew uneasy. A population capable of forgetting fear is difficult to control. A people who taste freedom may demand more of it. Dionysus stood at the edge of a city one evening, watching torches flicker in distant streets. Behind him came laughter, music, drums, the first true followers gathering in darkness. Ahead waited resistance, but behind him, humanity had already begun to awaken. To modern ears, the idea can sound almost absurd. A civilization remembered for philosophy, mathematics, architecture, political thought and disciplined warfare also built sacred rituals around intoxication. The same culture that gave the world Socrates also knelt before a god of wine. But contradiction was never foreign to the Greeks. In many ways, contradiction was their deepest form of honesty. They understood that human beings are not creatures of reason alone. A person may build laws by day and weep into darkness by night. A king may command armies and secretly fear death. A mother may perform her duties faithfully while longing for a life she was never allowed to live. The Greeks looked directly at these fractures. Rather than pretending discipline could erase desire, they gave desire a god. Rather than denying chaos, they ritualized it, and at the center of that ritual stood Dionysus. His followers did not worship drunkenness because they admired disorder for its own sake. They worshipped what intoxication revealed. Ancient Greek life was structured by expectation. Citizens were expected to perform civic duties. Women were often confined within strict domestic roles. Soldiers upheld ideals of courage. Public reputation could determine survival. Honour mattered. Shame mattered. Restraint mattered. And beneath all of it lived exhaustion. Dionysian ritual offered temporary release from identity itself. This was revolutionary. During festivals, ordinary social hierarchies weakened. Farmers danced beside aristocrats. Women left domestic spaces, masks erased social distinction, music overpowered internal restraint, wine softened rigid self-awareness. For brief moments, people stepped outside assigned roles. The Greeks called this ecstasy. The word originally meant to stand outside oneself. That definition reveals everything. Dionysian intoxication was not simply about pleasure, it was about departure, leaving behind the exhausting burden of constant self-control, leaving behind grief, leaving behind social masks, sometimes leaving behind sanity itself. That final possibility made many Greeks deeply uneasy. Because ecstasy is unpredictable, a person may find liberation, or collapse, truth, or destruction. The line between sacred transformation and chaos remained dangerously thin. This is why wine was diluted in many Greek drinking rituals. Pure intoxication was considered barbaric. Even within Dionysian worship, there remained an awareness that excess could consume people entirely. The Greeks respected wine because they feared it. Fear often creates sacred rituals. Many Dionysian ceremonies took place at night. Torchlight flickered across mountains. Drums echoed through forests. Participants wore animal skins. They danced until exhaustion dissolved thought. To outsiders, these rituals appeared frightening, and sometimes they were. Ancient accounts describe ecstatic states where participants felt possessed by divine force. Whether literal possession occurred matters less than what these rituals represented. They created socially accepted spaces where suppressed emotion could erupt. Without such spaces, repression often returns in more destructive forms. Greek tragedy emerged from these same religious roots. This is no coincidence. Theatre itself became another controlled form of emotional release. Audiences gathered to witness grief, violence, betrayal, madness, and fate. They cried safely inside structured performance. Dionysus governed the stage because he governed emotional exposure. He reminded people that hidden pain does not disappear. It waits, then returns, often violently. Even philosophers wrestled with Dionysian influence. Order and chaos became recurring themes in Greek thought. How much passion should civilization permit? How much restraint can human beings endure? These questions never fully disappeared. They remain alive in every culture. The Greeks simply gave those tensions divine faces. Apollo represented reason, Dionysus represented surrender, and human life unfolded between them. Perhaps that is why Dionysus endured. He offered something rare. Permission. Permission to grieve loudly. Permission to celebrate wildly. Permission to become temporarily unrecognizable. Permission to confront hidden parts of the self, but every permission carried warning. Too much wine could destroy families, too much ecstasy could fracture cities, too much freedom could terrify rulers. And still, people kept returning. Night after night, festival after festival, cup after cup. Because beneath civilization's polished surface, most people longed, if only briefly, to stop pretending they were always in control. And Dionysus, smiling beneath torchlight, offered them exactly that. At first, the gatherings were small, a few farmers lingering after harvest, women singing beside firelight, travellers passing a shared cup beneath unfamiliar stars. Music played softly enough not to disturb sleeping villagers. Dancing remained modest. Laughter faded before dawn. These early celebrations felt almost harmless, simple moments of relief in lives shaped by labour. But relief has a way of growing, especially when people realise they have been starving for it. As Dionysus moved across Greece, the gatherings multiplied. A vineyard in one valley inspired another. Songs travelled faster than merchants. Stories spread through ports and mountain roads. People whispered of nights where grief dissolved, of strangers embracing like family, of women dancing without shame, of old men laughing like children, of music that made the body feel lighter than sorrow. And so more people came, then even more. What began as scattered rituals slowly transformed into something larger. Seasonal festivals, organised celebrations dedicated entirely to Dionysus. The Greeks understood timing. Their festivals often emerged around agricultural cycles. This made practical and spiritual sense. Wine itself was born from harvest, from waiting, from seasonal transformation. After months of labour, celebration became both reward and ritual necessity. The earth had given fruit. The god had transformed it. Now humanity would respond with song. Entire villages prepared for these sacred nights. Garlands of ivy hung from doors. Goats were led through dusty roads. Torches were stacked for evening processions. Musicians tuned flutes and drums. Wine jars were sealed and guarded like treasure. Even the air felt different. Anticipation has its own fragrance. Smoke, fruit, sweat, flowers, and something harder to name. The scent of temporary freedom. When night finally arrived, ordinary life loosened. Masks appeared. Animal skins were worn. Faces were painted. Names became less important. Social hierarchy blurred. The banker danced beside the shepherd. The widow sang beside the bride. For brief hours, identity became fluid. This terrified some observers. Ancient societies depended heavily on predictable roles. When roles dissolve, authority feels fragile. Kings noticed this. Priests noticed. Philosophers would later debate it. But ordinary people often experienced these festivals as sacred necessity. Life was difficult. Death was common. Joy needed protection. Music became louder as festivals evolved. Drums echoed through valleys. Flutes shrieked like ecstatic birds. Voices rose into chants. Participants moved in circles beneath moonlight until exhaustion created altered states. The body became prayer. Movement became surrender. Many festivals included theatrical performance. At first, these were simple reenactments of myths, songs honouring gods. Comic performances, improvised stories. But over time these rituals gave birth to formal theatre. Greek tragedy emerged from Dionysian festivals. This remains one of history's most beautiful contradictions. From drunken celebration came some of civilization's greatest dramatic works. Stories of kings destroyed by pride. Families shattered by fate, heroes consumed by prophecy. The theatre became another sacred space where people could safely confront unbearable truths. Dionysus ruled both intoxication and performance because both require temporary surrender of identity. An actor becomes another person. A drinker becomes another version of themselves. A festival allows entire communities to step outside ordinary life. Yet danger remained. Every festival carried risk. Fights erupted. Desires surfaced. Political tensions occasionally spilled into chaos. Religious ecstasy sometimes frightened participants who could not control what they felt. Dionysus never offered safe transformation. Only real transformation. And real transformation always threatens existing structures. Still, the festivals endured, year after year, generation after generation. Parents brought children. Children became dancers. Dancers became elders. Songs survived long after singers died. And somewhere within every celebration, people waited for the same moment. The instant when wine warmed the blood, when drums matched the heartbeat, when torchlight blurred into stars, when the self began to dissolve. And in that beautiful instability, many believed they could feel Dionysus walking among them, smiling, watching, inviting them to go just a little further into the night. Every god gathers followers who reflect something essential about their nature. Athena drew strategists. Ares attracted warriors. Apollo inspired poets, prophets, and healers. But Dionysus gathered those who existed near the edges, those who felt constrained by ordinary life, those who heard music where others heard silence, those who looked at civilized order and sensed its cracks. And as his worship spread, his followers became increasingly impossible to ignore. They arrived first as rumours. Women abandoning their homes to dance in mountains, strange half-animal creatures appearing at festivals, night processions echoing through forests, cities waking to find ivy wrapped around temple doors. Then the rumours became visible. And deeply unsettling. Among his most famous companions were the satyrs, wild beings who existed somewhere between man and beast. In early Greek art, they often appeared with horse features. Later depictions gave them goat legs and horns. Their forms shifted over centuries, but their symbolism remained clear. They embodied appetite without apology. Lust, hunger, impulse, music. Animal instinct freed from shame. They drank excessively, chased pleasure, played flutes in forests, laughed at social rules. To civilized Greeks, satyrs were both comic and disturbing. They represented desires polite society tried desperately to control. And then there were the Maenads, the women who became Dionysus's most feared and revered followers. Their name roughly meant the raving ones. But the word alone cannot capture their mythic presence. They left cities under cover of darkness. Mothers, wives, daughters, women who spent most of their lives inside systems built to regulate their movement, and in the mountains they transformed. They wore animal skins, carried staffs wrapped in ivy. Their hair fell loose. They danced beneath moonlight until ordinary identity dissolved. Ancient male writers often described them with fascination and terror. A woman beyond social control threatened the foundations of Greek patriarchy. The Maenads represented more than religious ecstasy. They represented female freedom outside male supervision. That freedom was often portrayed as dangerous. And sometimes it was. Myths describe Maenads tearing apart wild animals with bare hands, drinking wine in forests, entering trance-like states where they believed the god moved through them. These stories may reflect ritual exaggeration. They may also reveal genuine cultural anxiety. What happens when suppressed groups experience unrestricted release? Societies often answer with fear. Dionysus welcomed them all. The rejected, the outsiders, the emotionally starved, those too strange for ordinary society, those too passionate, too theatrical, too feminine, too emotional, too wild. His processions grew legendary. Imagine hearing drums from distant hills at midnight, seeing torchlight moving between trees, hearing laughter that sounds almost feral, then glimpsing them emerge, satyrs dancing, Maenads spinning in ecstatic rhythm, leopards walking calmly beside human feet, wine spilling from golden cups, flutes screaming into darkness. And at the centre, Dionysus. Beautiful, calm, almost gentle, which made him more terrifying. He rarely needed to scream. Chaos followed him willingly. Ancient historians debated whether these followers reflected actual religious communities or symbolic storytelling. The answer may be both. Real festivals likely inspired exaggerated myth, and myths preserved cultural truths deeper than factual precision. Dionysian worship offered something rare: belonging without conformity, transformation without permission, a temporary world where shame held less power. This explains why so many were drawn to him, but it also explains why rulers feared him. Followers willing to abandon ordinary roles become difficult to govern. A woman who has danced freely on mountaintops may not quietly return to silence. A man who has tasted emotional honesty may no longer admire rigid authority, and once someone experiences life without constant self-restraint, ordinary obedience feels thinner. This tension would soon erupt into tragedy. Kings would attempt to suppress his worship, cities would resist, blood would follow. But on those early nights, beneath stars untouched by dawn, his followers danced through forests as though civilization had been briefly forgotten. And perhaps, for a few sacred hours, it had. To outsiders, it looked like chaos. That was often the first mistake. A traveller standing at the edge of a Dionysian ritual might hear only noise. Drums beating without mercy, flutes shrieking into the night, voices rising in wild chants that echoed through mountains, torches moving like fireflies possessed by fever, bodies spinning in circles until dust lifted from the earth, hair undone, wine spilling onto stone, laughter dissolving into sobbing, sobbing transforming into song. From a distance, it appeared as if civilization itself had collapsed, and perhaps, for a few sacred hours, that was precisely the point. But within the ritual, participants often described something far more structured than chaos. There were rhythms, sequences, symbols, preparations, purifications, songs learned across generations. Even surrender had ritual form. Ancient Greeks used a word that remains difficult to fully translate, enthusiasmos, to be filled with a god. This was not simple intoxication, it was believed to be divine occupation, a temporary state in which ordinary identity weakened enough for sacred force to enter. Participants prepared carefully. They fasted, bathed in sacred waters, wore ceremonial garments, adorned themselves with ivy crowns. Many travelled into forests or mountains, leaving behind the architecture of ordinary life. The setting mattered. Stone cities reinforced social roles. Wilderness dissolved them. Once night arrived, the ritual began slowly. A drum, then another. A flute entering softly, feet moving in rhythm. Wine passed hand to hand. At first, participants remained self-conscious. Then repetition began changing them. Rhythm alters perception. The body eventually stops resisting. Breath changes. Thought slows. Movement becomes instinctive. Hours pass unnoticed. And then something shifts. Witness accounts and later interpretations differ. Some believed literal possession occurred. Others saw psychological release shaped by ritual expectation. What matters is that participants often experienced overwhelming transformation. They felt larger than themselves, connected, fearless, untethered from personal grief. For some, this was healing. For others, terrifying. Ancient rituals sometimes included sparagmos, the ritual tearing apart of animals, and in darker myths, occasionally humans. Modern readers often recoil from these stories. Yet ritual violence existed across many ancient religions. It symbolized consumption of raw life force, a confrontation with mortality stripped of polite distance. Civilized societies often hide death. Ancient people lived closer to it. Dionysian rites refused sanitization. Life was beautiful and brutal. Pleasure was sacred and dangerous. The rituals reflected that honesty. Women played central roles in many ceremonies. This remained deeply controversial. Greek society often limited female public freedom. Dionysian worship temporarily shattered those restrictions. Women entered wilderness without male supervision. They shouted, danced, drank, led rituals. This inversion of social norms frightened authorities, not because celebration itself was threatening, but because alternative forms of power were being revealed. Power rooted in emotion, collective experience, embodiment, mystery. Not everyone returned unchanged. That was part of the ritual's reputation. Some emerged calmer. as though years of grief had been drained from them. Others struggled to re-enter ordinary life. How does one return quietly to domestic routine after feeling divine infinity move through the body? How does a king return to polite ceremonies after seeing his citizens lose fear? How does a priest maintain authority when people discover direct spiritual experience? Dionysian rituals threatened intermediaries. They suggested gods could be encountered without institutions, without palaces, without official approval. That idea remains powerful in every era. Ancient philosophers wrestled with these ceremonies. Some condemned them, others recognized their necessity. Civilization demands restraint. But restraint without release can become cruelty. Dionysus offered pressure valves, dangerous ones, yet perhaps necessary. Near dawn rituals often ended in silence. Participants collapsed in fields, sweat cooling on skin, wine stains drying on hands, stars fading above exhausted bodies, birdsong slowly returning. And in that fragile quiet, many believed they had briefly touched something beyond language. Not peace, not madness, but the thin, trembling line between both. And somewhere in the pale morning mist, Dionysus watched them recover, knowing many would return, and knowing others would fear him forever. Gods are often imagined as fixed, rooted to temples, bound to cities, defined by national borders. But Dionysus was never a god who stayed still. Movement lived in his blood long before he chose it. He was hidden as an infant, carried across mountains, raised in secret valleys, forced into exile before he understood the meaning of home. Perhaps that is why stillness never suited him. Once his worship began spreading through Greece, Dionysus looked beyond familiar shores. The sea called to him. So did distant civilizations older than Greece itself. Among the oldest was Egypt. To ancient Greeks, Egypt existed as both reality and dream, a land of immense antiquity, towering monuments, ancient priests, sacred rivers, burial rites obsessed with eternity. Its temples felt older than memory. Its gods wore animal faces and guarded mysteries Greeks struggled to fully understand. And so Dionysus crossed the sea. Some myths claim he travelled with an ecstatic procession. Satyrs, maenads, musicians, wild animals. Others imagine him arriving quietly, disguised as a wandering foreign prince. The details shift, the symbolism remains. Dionysus enters civilizations that believe themselves complete, then transforms them. His ships moved across dark Mediterranean waters. At night, wine cups reflected moonlight, flutes played across open decks, sailors whispered prayers when storms gathered. Even the sea seemed uncertain how to receive him. When Egypt finally emerged on the horizon, it rose like memory carved into stone. The Nile shimmered beneath golden heat. Massive temples stood against the desert sky. Columns towered like forests made permanent. Statues watched silently as centuries passed. Everything in Egypt seemed built to resist time. This fascinated Dionysus. He was a god of transformation. Egypt was a civilization obsessed with permanence. Their meeting felt inevitable. Greek writers later connected Dionysus to Egyptian gods such as Osiris. The parallels were difficult to ignore. Both carried themes of death and rebirth. Both were tied to agricultural fertility. Both moved through suffering toward transformation. Some ancient thinkers even argued they were different names for the same divine force. Whether true or not, these comparisons reveal how fluid ancient religion could be. Civilizations borrowed from one another, adapted myths, merged gods. Faith was often more porous than modern borders suggest. In Egyptian cities, Dionysus introduced wine cultivation more systematically. Though alcohol already existed in forms like beer, wine carried different symbolism. It felt aristocratic, ritualistic, transformative in distinct ways. He taught harvest ceremonies, night festivals, sacred performance, and as always, ecstatic release. Some welcomed him: artists, labourers, women, those burdened by rigid hierarchies. Others remained suspicious. Egypt's priesthood guarded ancient systems carefully. Any new spiritual force threatened established power. This tension followed Dionysus everywhere. He offered direct experience. Institutions often prefer controlled access to the sacred. Stories claim he wandered deep into desert temples, spoke with priests surrounded by incense, observed mummification rituals, learned songs dedicated to gods older than Olympus. The image feels poetic. A young god of intoxication walking among monuments built for eternity. Movement meeting permanence, ecstasy meeting preservation, life meeting carefully managed death. And perhaps he learned something there. Egypt treated death as a transition, not an ending. This mirrored his own origins, born through destruction, twice delivered into existence. He understood resurrection in deeply personal ways. Ancient writers often exaggerated his travels, conquering lands through spectacle, leading impossible processions across foreign kingdoms. Yet beneath exaggeration lies historical memory. Greek awareness of foreign cultures expanded through trade and travel. Dionysus became a mythological symbol for that exchange. He was the god who crossed boundaries others respected. He absorbed foreign ideas, foreign rituals, foreign identities, and carried them home transformed. When he finally left Egypt, the Nile continued flowing beneath endless sky. Temples remained. Priests continued their rites, but traces of him lingered, in cups raised after sunset, in songs sung more freely, in rituals where order briefly loosened, and as his ships disappeared toward eastern horizons, Dionysus smiled. Because he had realized something profound. The world was far larger than Greece, and he intended to intoxicate all of it. By the time Dionysus turned eastward, he had already become difficult to define. To some, he was a god. To others, a wandering king. To others still, a dangerous prophet wrapped in perfume and ivy. Wherever he travelled, certainty weakened, and perhaps that is why Asia drew him. To ancient Greeks, the lands east of the Aegean existed as both reality and imagination. They knew of Lydia, Phrygia, Persia, and regions beyond through merchants, soldiers, and scattered stories. But the farther east one travelled, the more geography blurred into myth. Cities became legends. Mountains became sacred thresholds, and distant cultures seemed to possess secrets Greece had never fully understood. Dionysus moved toward that uncertainty willingly. His followers expanded with each journey. What had once been a small procession now resembled a moving world. Satyrs laughed beside soldiers who had abandoned conventional armies. Maenads danced through dust storms. Musicians played drums unfamiliar to Greek ears. Foreign animals joined the march. Leopards, panthers, exotic birds carried in jewelled cages. The procession itself became a living symbol of cultural fusion. No single identity remained pure in his presence. That deeply reflected historical reality. Ancient trade routes constantly exchanged goods, stories, religious ideas, and technologies. Greek myths often transformed these exchanges into grand narratives of divine travel. Dionysus became one of mythology's great travellers because the Greeks recognised how profoundly foreign cultures changed them. He entered Phrygia first, a land of mountains, fierce traditions, and ecstatic religious rites. There he encountered worship of the great mother goddess, known by many names, including Cybele. Her rituals already involved drums, ecstatic dance, altered states, and wild devotion. The similarities to Dionysian worship were striking. Ancient cultures often mirror one another in unexpected ways. different languages, different clothing, yet similar spiritual hunger. Dionysus did not destroy these traditions. He absorbed them, adapted, expanded. This distinguished him from many conquerors. He did not erase cultures. He intoxicated them until boundaries blurred naturally. In Lydia, wealthy courts received him with curiosity. Wine flowed through golden halls. Nobles admired his beauty, then feared his unpredictability. Some rulers welcomed festivals, others banned them after witnessing nobles abandon dignity. Courts built on rigid performance rarely trust genuine emotional release. Dionysus exposed how fragile royal authority could be. A king seated on a throne may appear powerful, until his subjects discover laughter, or ecstasy, or fearlessness. Further east, myths describe armed resistance, entire cities closing their gates, priests denouncing him, generals preparing armies against what they perceived as cultural contamination. But fighting Dionysus was always difficult. How do you defeat music? How do you imprison wine? How do you stop desire from spreading? His victories often came without traditional warfare. A single festival could accomplish what armies could not. Citizens invited to celebrate frequently abandoned hostility. Soldiers drank, danced, wept, forgot why they had been ordered to hate him. This made him uniquely threatening. Traditional rulers understand military enemies. They understand taxes, borders, weapons. They struggle against forces that transform inner life. As Dionysus moved deeper east, his own identity continued evolving. He wore foreign garments, learned new languages, listened to unfamiliar instruments, accepted worship under different names. This fluidity unsettled Greeks, who preferred neat categories. Was he still Greek? Had he become something else? Dionysus seemed unconcerned. He belonged wherever transformation occurred. Ancient historians later used his travels to explain how Greek culture encountered foreign sophistication. These myths reflected admiration and anxiety. Foreign lands represented luxury, mysticism, danger, excess. Dionysus embodied all four. Night after night, his processions crossed deserts, forests, rivers, and royal roads. Torches burned beneath unfamiliar stars. Songs changed language but kept rhythm. Wine stained every border red. And the farther east he travelled, the more his legend expanded beyond human scale. Soon even greater myths would emerge. Whispers of an impossible destination, a land beyond all familiar maps, a place Greeks imagined as the edge of the world, India. And Dionysus, restless as ever, kept walking toward the horizon, beyond Persia, beyond the known trade roads, beyond the final edges of familiar maps. There existed a land the Greeks spoke of with awe, India. For many in the ancient Mediterranean world, it felt less like geography and more like a dream, a place of immense rivers, strange animals, ancient wisdom, overwhelming heat, jewels pulled from the earth, forests thick enough to swallow armies. To travel there was to step beyond the comfortable limits of inherited knowledge, which is precisely why Dionysus went. He had never been interested in borders. Borders are declarations of certainty. And certainty was rarely his companion. By now his procession had become legendary. Stories describe a moving spectacle so surreal it seemed impossible. Women crowned in ivy, satyrs carrying wineskins, musicians beating foreign drums, leopards walking beside chariots, elephants eventually joining the march, torches glowing beneath endless night skies. Not an army, not exactly, and yet entire kingdoms trembled as he approached. Ancient writers often described this eastern campaign as a conquest, but it was conquest reimagined. He did not leave behind occupied territories, he left behind vineyards, rituals, songs, stories, and altered people, This myth became especially important centuries later, when Alexander the Great marched toward India. Greek historians use Dionysus as a symbolic predecessor. If Dionysus had reached India first, Alexander's campaign could be framed as divine imitation. Myth often serves political ambition. But beneath propaganda lies older fascination. India represented the ultimate threshold, the place where familiar civilization dissolved into mystery. Crossing into it meant surrendering certainty. A deeply Dionysian act. The journey was brutal. Mountains tore apart supply lines. Rivers flooded unexpectedly. Heat weakened soldiers. Foreign diseases spread through camps. Some followers abandoned the march, others became more devoted. Shared suffering often deepens belief. At night they gathered around fires. Wine passed between exhausted hands. Stories were told in dozens of languages. The procession itself became a temporary civilization built on movement. When they finally entered Indian territories, Greek myths become increasingly fantastical. They describe kings riding war elephants, cities filled with philosophers, armies wielding strange weapons, sacred forests guarded by gods. Some accounts mention Indian sages who challenged Dionysus with questions about life, death, and illusion. Whether historically accurate matters less than symbolic meaning. Greek imagination viewed India as a place of profound spiritual depth, a land where even Dionysus encountered mysteries beyond himself. Some rulers resisted him, battles occurred. But even these stories remain unusual. Victory often came through spectacle, music before warfare, wine before negotiation, ecstasy before surrender. Entire armies reportedly abandoned combat after joining celebrations. The imagery feels exaggerated, yet myth often exaggerates emotional truth. Dionysus defeats rigidity by making rigidity feel unbearable. One famous legend tells of him reaching a mountain and planting ivy where no ivy should survive. The plant flourished instantly. Foreign soil accepted him. Nature itself recognized his authority. This mattered deeply. Conquerors usually imposed themselves on landscapes. Dionysus merged with them. He adapted, absorbed, expanded. In later traditions, he returns from India transformed, richer, wiser, more universal, no longer simply a Greek god. He becomes something global before globalization existed. A symbol of spiritual movement across cultures, wine remained central. But now so did philosophy, mysticism, foreign ritual, expanded imagination. He had travelled farther than nearly any god in Greek mythology, and what he found at the edge of the world was not an ending, only further complexity. When his campaign finally turned westward, countless followers remained behind. Vineyards spread into new climates. Songs evolved into new languages. His myth became permanently international. Centuries later, armies would still invoke his name while marching east. Poets would imagine him crowned in foreign flowers. Historians would argue over where myth ended and memory began. But as Dionysus stood beneath an unfamiliar sky, watching dawn rise over distant mountains, he seemed uninterested in legacy. He smiled as wind moved through newly planted vines. Then he turned toward the long road home. Though by now, home itself had become impossible to define. By the time Dionysus began his journey westward, he had become unrecognizable to the world that first named him. He had been born in Thebes, hidden in wilderness, raised by nymphs, driven across seas, welcomed by strangers, resisted by kings, and transformed by every land he touched. He returned carrying perfumes from Egypt, drums from Phrygia, stories from Persia, mysteries from India. Foreign languages clung to his processions like incense. Even his followers no longer resembled a single culture. They were a moving archive of places, a living contradiction to the ancient obsession with boundaries. And boundaries mattered deeply in the ancient world. Cities defended borders. Kingdoms fought over rivers. Religious systems often insisted their gods belonged to particular lands. Identity was tied to soil, to ancestry, to inherited customs. To remain pure was often seen as strength. Dionysus rejected that idea completely. He crossed borders as though they were illusions. Mountain ranges did not stop him. Languages did not stop him. Religious differences did not stop him. Neither did fear. Wherever he travelled, he absorbed local traditions rather than erasing them. That made him difficult for historians to categorise. Was he originally Greek? Was his worship imported from the East? Did he emerge from Thrace, Phrygia, Crete? Ancient scholars debated endlessly. Modern scholars still do. The uncertainty feels deeply appropriate. Dionysus becomes strongest precisely where certainty fails. Even his appearance challenged borders. Greek art often portrayed masculine heroes as rigid symbols of physical control. Dionysus looked different. Long hair, soft features, jewellery, flowing robes, sometimes bearded and wild, other times almost delicate. He moved between masculine and feminine presentation with ease. Ancient audiences found this unsettling, yet it reflected a deeper truth. Rigid identity often requires constant performance. Dionysus exposed how fragile those performances can be. He crossed emotional borders too, joy into grief, celebration into violence, sobriety into intoxication, sanity into ecstatic loss of self. He lived in thresholds, doorways, twilight spaces, the places where one state becomes another. This made him beloved by outsiders. Foreign merchants prayed to him, travellers honoured him, actors embraced him. Women seeking temporary freedom found sanctuary in his rituals. Those who never felt fully accepted by rigid systems often recognised themselves in him. He belonged everywhere, because he never fully belonged anywhere. That paradox remained central to his myth. Ancient empires often attempted unity through conquest. Dionysus created unity through transformation. He invited people into altered states where familiar divisions mattered less. Nationality, class, gender roles, social hierarchy. For a few hours beneath wine and music, these structures softened. Rulers feared this. A population that forgets its assigned place becomes difficult to govern. Priests feared it too. Institutional religion prefers clear doctrine. Dionysus offered direct experience, unpredictable, personal, wild. Even philosophers struggled with him. How do you rationally explain a god who seems to celebrate contradiction? How do you build stable societies while acknowledging human longing for chaos? These tensions followed Greek thought for centuries. Apollo and Dionysus became symbolic opposites. Reason and surrender, form and instinct, sunlight and moonlit forests. Yet life requires both. Pure order suffocates. Pure chaos destroys. Dionysus reminded civilizations not to confuse stability with wholeness. He continued moving. Ports welcomed him, villages feared him, cities debated him, and everywhere vines spread, across abandoned walls, across forgotten shrines, across borders drawn by men who believed permanence belonged to them. Vines do not respect maps. Neither did Dionysus. One evening, standing at the edge of a foreign coastline, he watched ships disappear into sunset. Behind him, dozens of languages mixed around festival fires. Ahead lay Greece once more, the land of his birth, the land that still had not fully accepted him. And soon, that rejection would become violent. Most conquerors arrive with iron. They march behind banners. They redraw maps with blood. Their victories are measured in burned cities, surrendered kings, and monuments built over graves. History remembers their names through ruins. Dionysus conquered differently. He rarely carried weapons. He had no interest in fortresses. He did not hunger for permanent thrones. And yet, entire nations bent beneath his influence. not through fear of death, but through seduction. This made him uniquely dangerous. Violence can be resisted, walls can be built, armies can prepare. But how does a kingdom defend itself against pleasure? How does a ruler protect order when citizens willingly abandon restraint? How do priests maintain authority when people discover sacred experiences outside temple walls? Dionysus arrived at city gates with music, not war drums, festival drums, flutes, laughter, perfume, torchlight, wine carried in vast jars. His followers often looked less like soldiers and more like actors wandering out of dreams. Satyrs laughing, women crowned with ivy, foreign travellers singing in unfamiliar languages, wild animals walking calmly beside them, and at the centre stood Dionysus. Beautiful, still, almost gentle, as though he already understood resistance was temporary. Some rulers mocked him. They saw softness and mistook it for weakness. They saw celebration and mistook it for foolishness. Then festivals began. At first, curiosity drew crowds. Merchants, farmers, young nobles, servants, women seeking escape from rigid domestic roles, soldiers exhausted by endless discipline. They gathered simply to watch, then they stayed. Wine loosened fear. Music weakened suspicion. Masks allowed anonymity. People danced beside strangers they would normally avoid. Confessions emerged. Grief surfaced. Laughter spread. For many, it felt like waking from years of emotional confinement. And once someone experiences emotional freedom, ordinary obedience feels heavier. This was Dionysus's true conquest. He changed inner landscapes. He made rigid systems feel hollow. Kings noticed their citizens growing harder to intimidate. Priests noticed attendance declining at formal rituals. Generals noticed soldiers questioning pointless wars. Families noticed daughters demanding unusual freedoms. Social order depends partly on emotional predictability. Dionysus disrupted that predictability. He taught people they contained identities larger than assigned roles. That lesson spreads faster than armies. Ancient historians often exaggerated his campaigns into literal military victories. They describe impossible battles. Foreign kings surrendering entire empires. Cities opening gates in awe. These stories reflect how ancient cultures understood influence. Transformation of values could feel as dramatic as military conquest, and perhaps more permanent. A conquered city may rebel. A transformed imagination rarely returns unchanged. This is why Dionysus repeatedly appears as a threat to authoritarian figures. Tyrants rely on fear. Dionysus offers alternatives, not political ideology, something more primal. Joy, collective ecstasy. Temporary liberation. These experiences remind people that life can feel different. That realization alone can destabilize entire systems. But his conquests were never purely benevolent. Excess followed him. Families fractured. Violence sometimes erupted during ecstatic rituals. People lost themselves in ways they could not always recover from. Freedom without structure can become another form of destruction. Dionysus embodied both truths: liberator, disruptor. He offered release. But release can dismantle lives built on fragile foundations. Perhaps that is why his victories often feel morally unresolved. He destroys oppression, and sometimes destroys stability along with it. As his influence spread across continents, kings whispered warnings to one another. Do not let him enter your city. Do not permit his rituals. Do not underestimate beauty. Do not drink what he offers. Some listened, others laughed. Soon one group of men would make a far greater mistake. Not kings, not priests, but desperate sailors who believed they had captured an ordinary stranger. And the sea itself would learn what conquest looks like when a god feels insulted. The sea remembers greed. It remembers every ship that vanished without prayer, every scream swallowed by wind, every body thrown overboard beneath indifferent stars. The ancient Mediterranean was beautiful from shore. Blue water, white sails, sunlight dancing across waves. But beyond the safety of harbours, it could become lawless. And in lawless places, desperate men often mistook opportunity for destiny. Among them were the Tyrrhenian pirates. They lived between nations, they answered to no king, they worshipped profit more faithfully than any god. Merchant vessels feared them, travellers prayed not to encounter them, they stole cargo, kidnapped nobles, sold human beings into slavery, and trusted the sea to bury evidence. One morning they sailed beneath a sky so clear it felt almost sacred. No storm clouds, no warning, only calm waters and bright sunlight. Then they saw him. A solitary young man standing near the shoreline, barefoot, still, watching the sea. He looked impossibly beautiful. Long dark hair moved gently in the wind. His skin glowed softly beneath morning light. He wore fine garments. Jewellery shimmered at his wrists. He looked like someone worth ransom, or sale. Most importantly, he appeared alone. Predators often mistake solitude for weakness. The pirates lowered a smaller boat and approached. The young stranger did not run. He did not shout. He did not ask who they were. He simply looked at them with an expression that seemed almost compassionate. That should have frightened them. Instead, they laughed. They dragged him aboard. They spoke openly about profit. A prince, perhaps, a wealthy foreigner, someone who could be sold in distant markets. They tied his wrists, mocked his silence, and sailed farther from shore. Only one man aboard felt unease. The helmsman. In some versions of the myth, his name is Acoetes. Older than the others, less intoxicated by cruelty, he watched the prisoner closely. There was no fear in him, no panic, no anger, only stillness. The kind of stillness storms possess before they break. Acoetes warned the crew. Release him. There is something divine here. Perhaps he is a god. Perhaps worse. The crew roared with laughter. Men accustomed to violence rarely believe in consequences. They tightened the ropes and discovered something impossible. The knots would not hold. The binding slipped free from the young man's wrists, as though rope itself refused obedience. They tied him again. The ropes fell away again. Still they refused understanding. Greed can make miracles look like inconvenience. Then the ship began changing. At first it was subtle, a strange fragrance drifting through the air. Sweet, heavy, familiar, wine. The sailors looked down. Dark red liquid was seeping through the wooden deck, flowing between planks, pooling around their feet. The scent thickened. Then came music. Faint at first, flutes from nowhere, distant drums, laughter echoing across open water. The sailors searched the horizon. There were no other ships, no visible musicians, only endless sea. Then vines emerged. Thin green tendrils crept across the mast. Then thick ivy wrapped around ropes. Leaves unfolded. Clusters of ripe grapes appeared where bare wood had been moments earlier. The ship transformed into a floating vineyard. Nature invaded human structure with terrifying ease. The pirates screamed. Axes were drawn. Men hacked wildly at vines that regrew faster than they could cut. Then the young prisoner disappeared, and Dionysus revealed himself, crowned in ivy, radiant, beautiful beyond language, and utterly terrifying. His calmness made everything worse. Beside him appeared wild animals, a great panther pacing the deck, in other versions, a lion. The exact creature changes, the meaning does not. Civilization had ended. Wild divinity now stood where human greed once felt powerful. The pirates fell to their knees. Then panic overwhelmed reason. One by one, they leaped into the sea. Anything felt safer than remaining near him, but the sea was no refuge. As they fell through the air, their bodies transformed. Hands became fins, voices dissolved into clicks, skin changed. They became dolphins, forever bound to the waters they once used for cruelty. And yet Dionysus' punishment carried unusual tenderness. Dolphins were beloved in Greek imagination, protectors of sailors, symbols of rescue. Perhaps he did not destroy them. Perhaps he forced them into new forms where they could no longer harm others. Only Achaetes remained untouched. The one man who recognized divinity before spectacle demanded belief. He knelt in silence, and Dionysus spared him. Not because he was flawless, but because humility leaves space for revelation. When it was over, the sea became quiet again. The vine swayed softly in ocean wind. The dolphins disappeared beneath glittering waves. And Dionysus stood alone on the transformed ship. Beautiful as sunrise, dangerous as deep water. The horizon stretched endlessly before him, and beyond that horizon waited Thebes, his birthplace, a city that would reject him far more violently than pirates ever could. Some men fear chaos because they have witnessed suffering. Others fear chaos because control is the only language they understand. King Pentheus belonged to the second kind. He ruled Thebes, the city where Dionysus had first entered the world through fire and grief. The city of Semele. The city that had watched her die. The city that whispered her name with shame. Years had passed since her destruction. But memory lingered. In royal halls, Semele was still remembered as the woman who claimed Zeus loved her. A woman many believed had been consumed by madness. Her child was dismissed as fantasy. An embarrassment. A scandal buried beneath official history. Pentheus inherited that version of truth. Young. Proud. Disciplined. He believed order preserved civilization. And in many ways, he was not entirely wrong. Cities require laws. Harvests require structure. Armies require obedience. Without discipline, societies collapse. But Pentheus made a fatal mistake common to rigid rulers. He believed anything he could not control must be destroyed. Then, rumours reached Thebes. Women leaving their homes. Nobles attending secret rituals. Music drifting from mountains at night. Wine festivals growing louder. Foreign followers entering the city dressed in animal skins and ivy. And at the centre of it all, a strange god claiming divine birth from Semele. Pentheus was outraged, not only because Dionysus threatened public order, but because his existence revived a family scandal Pentheus preferred buried. If Dionysus truly was Semele's son, then Thebes had misunderstood its own history, and kings rarely welcomed truths that weakened their authority. The city itself became divided. Some mocked Dionysus, others secretly attended his rituals. Women whispered about freedom in the mountains. Servants passed stories through kitchens. Young men spoke of unforgettable festivals. Old priests debated omens. Thebes trembled with anticipation. Then Dionysus returned. Not as a roaring conqueror, not with armies. He entered quietly, beautiful, soft-spoken, dressed like a foreign priest. His calmness unsettled people more than aggression would have. He seemed utterly certain resistance would fail. Pentheus ordered his immediate arrest. Soldiers dragged Dionysus into chains. The king mocked his appearance, his long hair, his soft robes, his foreign rituals, his feminine beauty. Pentheus saw weakness, but his insult revealed insecurity. Rigid masculinity often feels threatened by fluid identities. Dionysus blurred categories Pentheus relied upon. King and servant, male and female, civilized and wild, sacred and profane. Pentheus demanded answers. Who are you? What god do you serve? Why corrupt my people? Dionysus answered gently. He told Pentheus exactly who he was: the son of Zeus, born from Semele, bringer of wine, liberator of the soul. Pentheus laughed. Truth often sounds absurd to those committed to denial. He ordered Dionysus imprisoned, locked away, silenced. The moment feels almost tragic in its arrogance. How often have rulers believed cages could contain ideas? How often have institutions mistaken force for permanence? Night fell, the palace slept. And then the earth moved. A violent tremor shook Thebes. Columns cracked, torches collapsed, prison doors burst open, flames erupted where none had been lit, and Dionysus walked free, calm, untouched, as if walls had simply forgotten their purpose. Pentheus awoke to chaos. Servants screamed, priests begged for mercy, reports arrived from the mountains. The women of Thebes had abandoned the city. Mothers, daughters, wives, they danced as maenads in wild ritual. Civilized life was unravelling. And Pentheus's obsession deepened. He could have yielded. He could have listened. He could have recognised divinity. Instead, he became consumed by surveillance. He needed to see these forbidden rituals with his own eyes, to expose them, control them, destroy them. Dionysus smiled, and offered to help. He suggested Pentheus disguise himself, dress as a woman, hide among the maenads, observe their rituals unseen. The irony was devastating. The king who mocked blurred identity now agreed to abandon his own. Not from humility, but obsession. And obsession makes people easy to guide toward ruin. As dawn approached, Pentheus prepared for the mountains. He believed he was hunting chaos. He did not realize chaos had already entered his mind. And Dionysus, patient as ever, led him toward the forest. It began quietly. That was what frightened Thebes most. No armies approached the city walls, no invading banners darkened the horizon, no plague announced itself through visible decay. Instead, women simply began leaving. At first, it was a handful, a servant disappearing before dawn, a noblewoman failing to return from temple prayer, a mother wandering into nearby hills with distant eyes. Families assumed temporary confusion. Stress, grief, private rebellion. Then, more followed. Entire groups vanished into the mountains, the daughters of merchants, wives of soldiers, priestesses, young girls, elderly women, even mothers still nursing infants. They left homes unfinished, meals abandoned, children sleeping in empty rooms, spinning wheels still turning, doors left open. The city awoke each morning more incomplete than the day before. Panic spread through households. Men searched roads. Servants were interrogated. Priests demanded explanations. But the women had not been kidnapped. They had answered something. A call deeper than law, deeper than marriage, deeper than fear. High in the mountains surrounding Thebes they gathered, thousands of them. The air smelled of pine and cold stone. Night winds moved through dark trees, and beneath moonlight they transformed. They became maenads. Their hair hung loose, their feet bled against rock, they wore animal skins, ivy crowned their heads. In their hands they carried the thyrsus, wooden staffs wrapped in vines. They danced for hours, then days, then what felt like timelessness. Ancient writers often described these women as driven mad, but that phrase reveals as much about male fear as it does spiritual reality. To men watching from the city below, female autonomy looked like madness. Women outside domestic roles threatened the architecture of patriarchal order. Yet the rituals were not purely symbolic rebellion. Something deeper moved through them. Dionysus dissolved ordinary identity. The women entered ecstatic states where grief surfaced, rage surfaced, buried longing surfaced. Some laughed uncontrollably, others cried. Some spoke in voices their families would not recognize. Many felt divine presence moving through their bodies. The Greeks called this possession. Modern categories fail to capture what participants believed they experienced. For them, The god was real, and he was near. Stories from terrified witnesses grew increasingly strange. Hunters reported seeing women nursing wolf cubs. Others claimed milk flowed from the earth where maynards struck the ground. Honey poured from stone. Wild animals approached them without fear. Some stories describe women tearing apart livestock with their bare hands. These accounts may be exaggerated, but exaggeration often reveals cultural terror. The women had become unpredictable, and unpredictable populations frighten governments. King Pentheus interpreted everything as political rebellion. He saw social collapse, dishonour, female disobedience, religious corruption. What he could not see was the emotional starvation beneath Thebes. Many of these women had spent their lives performing silence. Dionysus offered voice, even if that voice emerged as screaming in forests, that terrified men who benefited from their quietness. Families begged the gods for intervention. Husbands climbed mountains searching for wives. Fathers searched for daughters. Many returned wounded. Others returned shaken into silence. They described eyes that seemed almost divine, women who no longer recognized ordinary authority, mothers who looked at their husbands as if seeing strangers. Pentheus became obsessed. The city demanded restoration. He promised control. He promised punishment. He promised he would expose these rituals as fraud. But Dionysus had already begun reshaping reality. The women were not merely resisting Thebes, they had stepped outside it, outside identity, outside obligation, outside the narrow definitions assigned to them. And though their freedom carried danger, it was still freedom. As dawn rose over the mountains, thousands of women danced beneath fading stars. Their voices echoed through valleys. Below them, Thebes trembled, and climbing toward them in secret disguise, came King Pentheus, walking willingly toward the moment that would destroy him. Dawn arrived gently. That is what makes this story feel so cruel. The morning was beautiful. Mist drifted through pine forests. Birdsong moved softly through the mountains. Sunlight touched stone peaks with pale gold. Nothing in the natural world seemed prepared for violence, and yet some of history's darkest moments unfold beneath beautiful skies. Pentheus climbed the mountain in disguise, a king dressed in garments he once mocked, soft robes, women's clothing, his hair carefully arranged, his body hidden beneath borrowed identity. The irony was almost unbearable. He had ridiculed Dionysus for blurring boundaries. Now he surrendered his own identity willingly, not out of humility, not out of spiritual curiosity, but obsession. He needed to see what he could not control. He needed proof. He needed to expose what frightened him, and Dionysus guided him every step of the way. Calm, patient, almost tender. That tenderness makes the myth more disturbing. Dionysus never forced Pentheus upward. He simply encouraged the king's worst instincts until self-destruction felt like personal choice. Ancient tragedies often function this way. The gods do not always create flaws. They amplify what already exists. As they climbed higher, the sounds grew louder. Drums, flutes, voices rising and falling like wind. The mountain seemed alive. Trees trembled with rhythm. Birds scattered from branches. The air smelled of pine resin, wine, sweat, and crushed leaves. Then Pentheus saw them, the women of Thebes. Thousands gathered across the mountain, dancing, singing, laughing, sleeping against rocks, nursing wild animals, moving in ways that felt both beautiful and deeply unsettling. Some rested peacefully in sunlight. Others spun in ecstatic movement. Their hair flowed freely. Their eyes seemed distant. They no longer resembled the women Pentheus believed he ruled. They belonged to something larger now. Dionysus instructed Pentheus to climb a tall pine tree for a better view. The king obeyed. He climbed higher, until he sat hidden among branches overlooking the ritual below. and for a brief moment he became still. Perhaps he saw beauty. Perhaps he saw freedom. Perhaps he understood that what he feared was not corruption, but transformation. But understanding came too late. Dionysus looked toward the women, and whispered. In some versions he calls out directly. In others he simply shifts perception itself. Suddenly the Maenads looked upward. Their movement stopped. Thousands of faces turned toward the tree. And they saw not a king, not Pentheus, but an intruder, a threat, a wild animal, a violation of sacred space. Among them stood Agave, Pentheus's own mother, lost in divine ecstasy. Her eyes burned with unrecognizable intensity. Dionysian madness had erased ordinary relationships, mother, son, family. These identities dissolved beneath divine frenzy. Agave shouted first. She urged the women to attack, to bring down the beast hiding above them. The Maenads rushed the tree. Their screams echoed through the mountains. They tore branches, shook the trunk, used their hands with impossible strength. The tree bent, then cracked. Pentheus fell, and the women descended upon him. Ancient texts become brutally direct here. They tore him apart, limb from limb. Sparagmos, the ritual dismemberment associated with Dionysian violence. His pleas meant nothing. His royal authority meant nothing. His identity dissolved in the most literal way possible. And at the centre of it all, his mother. Agave seized his head, believing she had killed a lion. She raised it triumphantly, blood covering her arms. Her followers celebrated around her. The mountain echoed with victory cries. Then, silence. The ritual ended. The divine frenzy began fading. Agave returned to Thebes carrying her son's head, still smiling, still proud. She believed she had performed a sacred act, until her father Cadmus approached, and slowly forced her to see reality. The head in her hands was not a beast. It was Pentheus, her son. The moment of recognition is one of Greek mythology's most devastating scenes. Ecstasy collapsed into horror, triumph into grief. Agave looked down, and saw truth. The scream that followed seems to echo across centuries. What makes this myth endure is its refusal to offer simple heroes. Pentheus was arrogant, cruel, obsessed with control, but his death feels horrifying. Dionysus was divine, liberating, a protector of the rejected, and yet he orchestrated unimaginable suffering. That contradiction is the myth. Dionysus gives freedom, but those who resist transformation too violently may be shattered by it. As night fell over Thebes, the city sat in stunned silence. Its king was dead, its women traumatized, its royal family broken, and somewhere beyond the city walls, Dionysus walked quietly into darkness, leaving behind wine, grief, and a lesson no one would forget. Long after Thebes had buried its dead, long after Pentheus became a warning whispered in royal courts, there were still kings who believed they could resist Dionysus. Perhaps that is the eternal weakness of power. Rulers often study history only long enough to believe they are different from those who failed before them. In Thrace there ruled a king named Lycurgus. Unlike Pentheus, he was not young. He was hardened by warfare, raised in a brutal landscape of mountains, forests and cold rivers. His kingdom valued discipline, strength, military obedience, survival. To Lycurgus, softness was dangerous, pleasure weakened nations, emotion distracted warriors, order preserved life. And then Dionysus entered his land, not with armies, not with siege weapons, but with music. Torches, wine, women singing beneath moonlight, foreign dancers, satyrs laughing through forests, the usual signs of beautiful disruption. To ordinary people, his arrival felt intoxicating. To Lycurgus, it looked like invasion. Fields were left unattended. Soldiers slipped away to attend rituals, women disappeared into forests, young men questioned discipline, and the king grew furious. Some rulers fear external enemies. Lycurgus feared internal transformation. He understood that once people begin imagining life differently, obedience becomes fragile. So he acted quickly, violently. Ancient accounts differ in detail, but all agree he attacked Dionysus' followers. He drove Maenads from forests, destroyed sacred rituals, captured worshippers. In some versions, he struck Dionysus himself with an ox goad, a farming tool transformed into a weapon. The symbolism is sharp. A king using instruments of order and agriculture to attack a god of fertile chaos. Dionysus fled. This surprises many readers. Why would a god retreat? But Greek gods often move in unexpected ways. Retreat can be strategic, silence can be punishment. Dionysus escaped into the sea. There, according to myth, the sea goddess Thetis offered him shelter. He hid beneath dark waters while his followers suffered above. For a moment Lycurgus believed he had won. The rituals stopped. The forests grew quiet. Order returned, and that false peace became his greatest mistake. Because Dionysus rarely answers violence immediately. He allows arrogance time to bloom. Then he destroys it at the root. Madness came first. Not public madness, private madness, the most intimate kind. Lycurgus began seeing things, shadows moving where none existed, voices in empty rooms, vines crawling across palace walls, the scent of wine where no wine had been poured. Sleep abandoned him. Food lost taste. His own mind became unfamiliar territory. Then came the vision. He looked upon his own son, and saw not a child, but a vine, an enemy growth, a corruption sent by Dionysus. In his madness, Lycurgus seized an axe. He attacked. Ancient storytellers linger on this moment because it reflects one of mythology's oldest terrors. The collapse of recognition. To look at someone you love and no longer see them. He killed his son. Some versions say he mutilated him. Others say he destroyed vineyards, believing he was purifying the land. Either way, the result was irreversible grief. When the madness lifted, reality returned. And reality was unbearable. His son was dead. His family destroyed. His kingdom horrified. The people understood quickly. This was divine punishment. The king had attacked a god. Now the land itself suffered. Crops failed. Fields withered. The earth mirrored royal corruption. Ancient societies often linked moral disorder with environmental collapse. A broken king meant broken harvests. An oracle was consulted. The answer was brutal. The land would not heal while Lycurgus lived. In some versions, his people imprisoned him. In others, they tore him apart. Some say he was fed to horses. Others claim he was abandoned on a mountain. Nearly every version ends with his destruction. Power stripped, identity erased. A king reduced to cautionary myth. What makes Lycurgus different from Pentheus is his severity. Pentheus was curious beneath his fear. Lycurgus embraced brutality immediately. He saw softness and responded with violence. Dionysus answered by weaponizing his own mind against him. And perhaps that is the deeper terror. External enemies can be fought. Internal collapse offers nowhere to run. As vineyards eventually returned to Thrace, people spoke quietly of the king who tried to kill joy itself. And far away, Dionysus continued wandering. Beautiful, patient, always smiling softly, and always remembering who refused his cup. Most gods in Greek mythology punish individuals. A boastful hunter, an arrogant queen, a reckless sailor, a king who speaks too boldly. Their punishments are intimate, personal, precise. Dionysus could be far less contained. When rejected, his anger sometimes moved beyond individuals. It spread through entire cities, entire bloodlines, entire kingdoms. This is what made rulers fear him differently. You could insult Ares and risk your life. You could insult Dionysus and watch your entire civilization unravel. Ancient myths preserve many fragmented stories. Some survive only in broken references. A king refuses his rights. A city bans wine festivals. A priest denounces his worship. Then the collapse begins. Sometimes quietly, sometimes all at once. Women vanish into forests. Men abandon military duties. Royal households descend into paranoia. Harvests fail. Families turn against one another. The common thread remains the same. Rigid societies attempt to suppress emotional release. That suppression eventually returns as catastrophe. One story tells of the daughters of King Minyas. Unlike Maenads who welcomed Dionysus, these women rejected his rituals. While others danced in celebration, they remained indoors, working, weaving, praising discipline, mocking ecstatic worship. At first their resistance appeared admirable, orderly, responsible. Then strange things began happening. The scent of wine filled their home, though no wine had been poured. Milk dripped from ceilings. Vines crawled across their weaving tools. Drums echoed from empty rooms. The god had entered their carefully controlled space. And then madness followed. Different versions describe horrifying outcomes. In one account, the sisters become so deranged they kill and consume one of their own children. In another, they are transformed into bats, creatures condemned to darkness. The symbolism feels brutal. A life spent rejecting ecstatic participation ends in permanent isolation. Another myth speaks of entire islands struck by plague after refusing his worship. Cities where vineyards withered overnight, kings waking to find temples swallowed by ivy, royal families torn apart by visions. These myths may sound exaggerated, but ancient audiences understood them as warnings. No civilization can survive by repressing human instinct forever. Dionysus represents what societies bury: pleasure, grief, sexuality, collective emotion, spiritual surrender. Ignore these forces too long and they return violently. Even military empires feared him. An army depends on discipline, hierarchy, predictability. Dionysian worship threatens all three. What happens when soldiers begin valuing ecstasy over conquest? What happens when citizens discover communal joy matters more than imperial ambition? What happens when women step outside domestic systems and refuse silence? These myths transformed social anxiety into divine narrative. And Dionysus became the face of instability lurking beneath civilization. Yet his destruction was never random. He rarely attacked those who honoured balance, those who respected wine, ritual, release, seasonal celebration. These communities often flourished. His violence emerged when rulers demanded total emotional obedience, when kings attempted to erase mystery itself. That project always fails. Human beings are too complex, too contradictory, too hungry for transcendence. Ancient theatre understood this deeply. Greek audiences watched these stories knowing their own cities were vulnerable. Athens celebrated democracy and philosophy, yet it also hosted massive Dionysian festivals. Even highly intellectual societies understood the need for ritual release. Without it, pressure becomes poison. Perhaps that is why Dionysus remains so difficult to judge. He can feel monstrous. Entire families destroyed, children killed, cities traumatized. And yet the myths repeatedly suggest repression creates the conditions for disaster. He punishes, not joylessness, but the arrogant belief that human nature can be permanently controlled. Night after night, ancient listeners heard these stories by torchlight. They drank wine while hearing warnings about wine. They watched tragedies born from emotional denial, and perhaps they recognized themselves. Because every kingdom believes it is stable, until the buried parts of human life begin demanding recognition. As ruined dynasties faded into legend, Dionysus kept walking, leaving vineyards where kingdoms once stood, letting ivy cover fallen palaces, and reminding every ruler who heard his name that stone walls cannot contain the human soul forever. The Greeks loved beauty, but they feared excess. This contradiction lived at the centre of nearly everything they created. Their temples were elegant, yet restrained. Their philosophy praised balance. Their tragedies warned against pride. Even their understanding of virtue often rested on moderation. Nothing in excess. It was carved into the spiritual architecture of their world. And yet, they also worshipped Dionysus, a god who invited excess, a god of wine, masks, ecstatic dance, emotional surrender, temporary madness. How could both truths exist in the same civilization? Because the Greeks understood something many cultures prefer to deny. Human beings are divided creatures. Part of us longs for structure, schedules, laws, predictability, safe identities, and another part longs to disappear, to dissolve responsibility, to surrender thought, to lose ourselves in music, desire, grief, ritual, or intoxication. The Greeks did not pretend one side could permanently defeat the other. Instead, they gave both impulses divine form. Apollo became order, reason, clarity, measured beauty. Dionysus became chaos, emotion, transformation, dark forests, and human life unfolded somewhere between them. But ecstasy frightened the Greeks because it exposed how fragile identity truly is. A respectable citizen could become unrecognizable after enough wine. A devoted mother could abandon domestic duties for mountain rituals. A king could descend into paranoia. A priest could lose authority when worshippers sought direct divine experience. Civilization depends on people performing predictable roles. Ecstasy interrupts performance. That interruption can feel liberating. It can also feel apocalyptic. The Greek word ekstasis meant standing outside oneself. This was not casual pleasure, it was a temporary departure from ordinary consciousness, and departure always carries risk. What if you cannot return? What if the person who returns is different? What if ordinary life feels unbearable afterward? These fears were not abstract, they lived in Greek myth repeatedly. Pentheus, Agave, Lycurgus, the daughters of Minyas, all become warnings about losing control. But these myths also reveal fear of those who reject ecstasy entirely. Too much order becomes cruelty. Too much suppression becomes violence. Too much discipline can make people spiritually hollow. The Greeks feared both extremes. That may be their greatest psychological honesty. Even Greek theatre reflected this tension. Tragedies were performed during festivals honouring Dionysus. This is extraordinary. Audiences gathered to watch stories of murder, grief, madness, and fate. They cried publicly. They confronted emotional truths too overwhelming for daily life. The theatre became a socially acceptable form of ecstasy, a structured surrender. The mask became sacred because masks allow truth to emerge safely. One can reveal more while pretending to be someone else. Dionysus understood this paradox intimately. He was the god of masks because identity itself is often theatrical. We all perform versions of ourselves: parent, worker, citizen, leader, believer. But beneath those roles lives something less stable. The Greeks feared discovering how unstable that deeper self might be. They feared what people become when shame disappears. They feared women outside patriarchal structures. They feared drunken soldiers. They feared crowds acting as one emotional body. And perhaps most deeply, they feared how beautiful surrender could feel. Because pleasure can become addictive, freedom can become intoxicating, and ordinary life often feels dull after transcendence. That tension remains alive in every era. Different substances, different rituals, different technologies. The same ancient hunger. To leave ourselves, to feel larger than our private suffering, to dissolve loneliness, to escape mortality for a moment. Dionysus offered all of this, and demanded honesty about the cost. He never promised harmless pleasure, only real transformation, sometimes beautiful, sometimes devastating. As Greek cities lit torches for another festival night, citizens walked toward wine and music with equal parts excitement and dread. They knew what waited there: laughter, catharsis, connection, and the terrifying possibility that by morning they might know themselves less clearly than before, or perhaps, for the first time, more clearly than ever. Not every person Dionysus touched was destroyed. This is important to remember. Myth often preserves his violence more vividly than his tenderness. The screaming women, the shattered kings, the cities undone by ecstasy. These stories endure because terror is memorable, but there was another side to him, a quieter side. A god who understood abandonment because he had lived inside it, and nowhere is that side more visible than in the story of Ariadne. Her life began inside beauty, built upon horror. She was the daughter of King Minos of Crete, raised inside a palace overlooking brilliant seas, white stone, salt wind, sunlight across marble. Yet beneath that palace lay the labyrinth, a monument to family shame. Within its endless corridors lived the Minotaur, half man, half bull, a creature born from divine punishment and human secrecy. Every few years young Athenians were sent into the maze as sacrifice. Their screams disappeared into stone. Ariadne grew up hearing those stories. Perhaps she understood early that beautiful kingdoms often hide cruelty beneath polished surfaces. Then came Theseus, young, charismatic, determined to kill the Minotaur. He arrived as many heroes do, carrying confidence large enough to reshape other people's lives. Ariadne saw him, and something inside her shifted. Ancient poets call it love. Perhaps it was. Perhaps it was longing for escape. Perhaps those two forces often resemble one another. She betrayed her father, betrayed her kingdom, and gave Theseus the thread that allowed him to survive the labyrinth. Without her, he would have died in darkness. With her help, he became legendary. This pattern appears often in mythology. Women helping build heroic stories, then disappearing from them. After the Minotaur died, Ariadne fled Crete with Theseus. The sea stretched before them. Freedom seemed possible. A new life, a new identity, a future built from dangerous courage. Then they arrived at Naxos, and everything collapsed. Ancient versions differ. Some say Theseus abandoned her intentionally. Others claim gods commanded him to leave. Some later writers attempt to soften his betrayal, but myth preserves emotional truth more powerfully than excuses. Ariadne awoke alone. The ship was gone. Its sails vanished into distant light. No explanation, no farewell, no promise of return, only waves, only silence. She ran across the shoreline, calling his name until her voice broke. She climbed cliffs searching the horizon. Nothing answered. The island became a theatre of grief. Her betrayal of Crete now felt meaningless. Her love felt humiliating. She existed between identities, no longer princess, no longer beloved, no clear future waiting, only abandonment. And Dionysus understood abandonment intimately. He had been hidden as a child, hunted, rejected, mocked. Forced to rebuild himself repeatedly, he recognized threshold suffering. That strange moment when an old life is gone, but a new one has not yet formed. One night, as Ariadne slept from exhaustion on the shore, Dionysus arrived. Not loudly, No violent procession, no terrifying miracle, only torchlight moving gently through darkness, soft music, the scent of wine and night flowers. His followers remained distant, even the satyrs were quiet. When Dionysus saw Ariadne sleeping in grief, ancient poets say he fell in love instantly. But perhaps what moved him first was recognition. He saw someone broken open by transformation, someone standing in ruins she did not choose. He approached gently and waited for her to wake. When she opened her eyes, she expected emptiness. Instead, she found a god. Beautiful, calm, patient, no demands, no manipulation, only presence. For someone abandoned, presence can feel miraculous. He did not ask her to forget Theseus. He did not erase her grief. He simply offered another future, and slowly she accepted. Their union became one of mythology's rare love stories not built entirely on conquest. Dionysus married Ariadne. He brought her into divine life. Some myths say Zeus granted her immortality. Others say Dionysus lifted her jewelled crown into the heavens. There it became the constellation Corona Borealis, a circle of light suspended in darkness, a reminder that abandoned things can become celestial. What makes this story endure is its emotional honesty. Healing does not erase betrayal. Transformation does not undo pain. But endings are not always final. Sometimes the life that collapses was too small for what comes next. As Ariadne stood beside Dionysus on the shores of Naxos, she watched the sea one final time. The same sea that carried Theseus away. The same sea that delivered her grief. Then she turned from it. Behind her waited music, stars, immortality, and a god who understood what it meant to survive abandonment. For once, Dionysus did not arrive as destruction. He arrived as what comes after destruction, and that can be even more sacred. Even gods fear certain roads. There are paths in mythology that feel colder than war, darker than exile, more permanent than grief, and one of those paths leads downward, beneath vineyards, beneath palaces, beneath oceans, beneath every laughing festival fire. The underworld waits, silent, patient, unmoved by mortal celebrations. All roads eventually lead there. Kings, poets, mothers, soldiers, lovers. Even those who once danced for Dionysus beneath moonlit forests would one day descend into that ancient dark, and for most beings, mortal or divine, the underworld was a place visited only by necessity. Dionysus entered by choice. Or perhaps by love. The story begins with memory. No matter how far he travelled, how many kingdoms he transformed, how many festivals rose in his name, one absence remained. Semele, his mother, the woman who died in fire before she could hold him. The woman reduced to ash because she asked to see truth. He had spent his life carrying her absence, born from her death, raised without her voice, surrounded by followers, yet haunted by a first abandonment he never chose. Ancient myths often hide tenderness inside impossible quests. This may be one of their most beautiful examples. Dionysus decided he would bring his mother back, not symbolically, literally. He would descend into death itself, and return with her. To attempt such a journey was extraordinary. Even heroes feared it. Heracles entered through strength. Orpheus entered through music. Odysseus entered through desperate necessity. Dionysus entered through longing. Ancient traditions placed the entrance in many locations. A cave, a sacred lake, a hidden spring, a crack in the earth where living light disappeared. One tradition speaks of Lake Lerna, its waters dark and still, its depths connected to the dead. Night covered the world when Dionysus arrived. No procession followed him, no drums, no laughing satyrs. Even wine felt inappropriate here. He came alone. The surface of the water reflected nothing, not stars, not moonlight, only blackness. He stepped forward and disappeared beneath the earth. The underworld in Greek imagination was not fire, it was absence. Grey fields, cold rivers, forgotten names, shadows drifting through eternity. A place where identity slowly weakened, even memory could fade. For Dionysus, this realm represented everything he resisted. He was a god of sensation, colour, sound, taste, movement. The underworld offered none of these, only stillness. He crossed the river of the dead. Past spirits who stared with hollow recognition. Perhaps some had once worshipped him. Perhaps some had died resisting him. Death equalized all stories. Eventually he stood before Hades and Persephone, king and queen of the dead, rulers of irreversible endings. Ancient versions differ on what happened next. Some say Dionysus negotiated. Others say he charmed Persephone. Some claim his divine status alone granted passage. But persuasion feels most fitting. Dionysus rarely conquers through force. He transforms through emotional truth. He asked for Semele, the woman destroyed by Zeus's fire, the woman who had never been granted ordinary motherhood. And somehow, the rulers of death agreed. Perhaps even the underworld respects devotion. Semele emerged from darkness, no longer burning, no longer afraid. Imagine that meeting, a mother seeing the son she never raised, a son seeing the woman whose death created him. No ancient poet fully captures that silence. Some reunions exist beyond language. He led her upward, back through stone, back through darkness, back toward air, toward stars, toward life. When Semele returned to the upper world, she could not remain fully mortal. Too much had changed, too much had been crossed. Zeus granted her immortality. In some traditions she became the goddess Theone, the inspired one, a mortal woman transformed into divinity. Her story, like her son's, became one of rebirth. Death did not keep her. That feels deeply Dionysian. Wine transforms fruit. Theatre transforms suffering. Ecstasy transforms identity. And now love had transformed death. When Dionysus emerged from the underworld, dawn was breaking. Birds began singing. Wind moved through trees. The world looked ordinary. Yet nothing was ordinary. He had done what few gods or heroes ever achieved. He entered death, and returned with love intact. And from that moment forward, Dionysus became more than a god of intoxication. He became proof that even the darkest descent may not be final. Sometimes, if love is strong enough, even death opens its gates. When gods fade from worship, they do not always disappear. Sometimes they change clothes. They move quietly into culture, into rituals so ordinary people forget where they began, into habits, songs, architecture, language. And Dionysus may be one of the clearest examples. His temples crumbled, his priests vanished, empires rose and fell above his forgotten shrines, yet his presence never truly left. It simply became harder to recognize. His first great inheritance was wine, not merely as agriculture, not merely as trade, but as ritual. Across Greece and later Rome, wine became central to celebration, diplomacy, mourning, festivals and religious ceremonies. A cup raised before meals, a toast at weddings, wine poured for the dead. Drinking remained deeply social, and always dangerous. The Greeks diluted wine because they understood its power. To drink without restraint was considered reckless. Even in ordinary life, Dionysus lingered as a warning. Pleasure requires respect. Then there was theatre, perhaps his most astonishing legacy. Thousands gathered in stone amphitheatres beneath open skies. They watched actors wearing masks become kings, queens, murderers, prophets, mothers, monsters. Entire cities sat together and publicly confronted grief. Jealousy, fate, violence, love, loss. These performances emerged from festivals honouring Dionysus. This matters. The god of intoxication also became the god of performance because both involved temporary transformation. An actor abandons self, a drinker abandons self, an audience enters collective emotion. For a few hours, identity becomes fluid. Even now, every stage performance carries his shadow, every actor stepping into another life, every audience crying over fictional suffering, every mask, every spotlight, his fingerprints remain. And then there is madness, the most misunderstood part of his legacy. Ancient people did not separate emotional suffering as neatly as modern systems attempt to. They experienced grief, obsession, visions, ecstatic states, despair, religious fervour, and often understood these experiences through divine language. Dionysus became associated with the unstable borders of consciousness, not because instability was glamorous, but because it was real. He represented the frightening truth that human identity is fragile. We are less fixed than we pretend. A heartbreak can transform personality. A loss can rearrange belief. A moment of ecstasy can alter memory forever. The Greeks understood this. Dionysus gave it a face. His myths also endure because modern life still wrestles with the same tensions: work and exhaustion, discipline and release, public identity and private longing. We build structured lives, then seek escape. Through music, celebration, performance, substances, nightlife, ritual, travel, romance, even digital worlds. The methods change, the hunger remains ancient. To briefly become someone else. To feel larger than ordinary suffering. To dissolve loneliness. To escape ourselves. Dionysus still whispers through that hunger. But his mythology also warns us. Escape can heal, escape can destroy, transformation can liberate, transformation can erase. The same wine that creates celebration can create ruin. The same performance that creates catharsis can become obsession. The same surrender that opens spiritual wonder can lead to self-destruction. That duality is why he remains so compelling. He never offered clean morality, only mirrors. He asks what you are trying to escape, and what version of yourself waits on the other side. Even Christianity inherited fragments of his symbolism. Wine became sacred blood. Death became transformation. Communal ritual remained central. The old gods rarely vanish completely. They evolve, and perhaps that is Dionysus's final triumph. He escaped mythology. He entered human behaviour itself. Every crowded concert, every masked performance, every ecstatic dance floor, every wedding toast, every drunken confession at midnight, every artist losing themselves in creation, every moment someone briefly steps outside ordinary identity. There he is, still smiling, still beautiful, still dangerous, like wine catching candlelight, like music drifting through an open window at midnight, like distant laughter in a forest where no one should be awake. And somewhere beyond history, beneath stars older than empires, Dionysus walks forever. A cup in his hand, ivy in his hair, waiting patiently for humanity to admit that we have always needed both order and the sacred art of losing ourselves.